We have been given the go-ahead at 6:32 in our meeting. We're only just waiting for the recording process to get started, so. So let's begin. We're calling the order, roll call. Everybody is here except Colin. I expected him, I haven't heard from him. And so, hopefully he will be arriving shortly. Okay, so are there any additions or changes to the agenda? All right, with no objection, then we'll accept it by acclamation. All right, the minutes have been included from February 20th. Did anyone have any corrections or changes to the minutes from the last meeting? Nope.
Good job.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. You do a very nice job. All right, well, with no objection, we'll also accept those by acclamation. All right, so we begin right away with continuing business. So Jennifer, what's the news on Town Square?
Well, we just had a meeting today with Town Square, and it will be
You want to give everybody who might not have heard what it is?
Great. So Town Square is a new online platform for members to go and view their account balances, either on your mobile device or on your computer. You can also make payments on there with your credit card. The fee is not taken by the association, so the association still gets 100% of the income. That's how Town Square makes their money, is these fees. It's about $6 for a credit card and a little bit less for a check, which is better than $15 that you pay through Mutual Mojave. We're going to go live on April 1st is the go live date, and so everyone who has an email in C3 will get a welcome, and it's whichever member is the first member listed in C3, which is typically whatever order they're on the assessor's site, will be the first member to go on there, and then every member can add all their different properties and golf account, marina, anything that goes through AR, so golf, marina, the views, Area Z, you can add on there, or if you own multiple properties, you can put your multiple properties on there. You can give family members access, and that's all like that the member manages, or you can give your tenants access, the member manages that as well. And it's a pretty user-friendly platform. The only caveat is that the first time you register, you can't do it from your phone, you have to do it from a computer.
Oh, well, that would explain.
Yes.
I was thinking maybe I was just technically challenged, which I am, but.
No, the first time you just register from a computer, set up your password, and then when you log into your mobile device and download the app, then you put your password in. If you're trying to do it from your phone first, it won't work. So we're pretty excited, and people are excited to be able to view their account balances and see all their history and their ledger, and maybe it'll help alleviate some questions in accounting. So.
Yeah, might save you a phone call or two.
There you go.
Yeah, oh, yeah, awesome.
Might have some extra phone calls to start. It's only $50 a month. The last time we looked into a similar member portal, it was over $3,500 a year, and so that didn't seem worthwhile.
This does.
Yes.
Great. Thanks for checking into it and for pursuing it. So
yeah.
It's a great idea. Any questions about Town Square? Okay. Reserve Study 2019 update.
Great, so all of our edits are back to the reserve consultant, and they're making their adjustments based on what the market's doing and what they know about Seven Valley, and we'll get our final copies back here hopefully by the 1st of April. It'll be for 2019 and work on 2020 here later in the year.
Okay, and you mentioned to me the other day, and I think I knew this in the past, but I think it's a good idea for everyone here to know that our reserve consultant is a CPA, so he really fully understands what we're doing. Not all are, our particular one is.
He's a CPA, so to be a reserve consultant, you have to be a certified reserve consultant. There's a lot of training that goes into that for how you evaluate buildings and what you include on there and what you don't include on there, and making sure all the components are listed properly. And so they'll say no, you can't add new things, oh yeah, that should be on there, you're correct. We put all the roads on there. They got out here and they were this company that we're with, and they said, "Oh, you don't have any of your roads on your reserve study? Why? But that's part of the assets of the association. We need to get all those added." And so we worked with them to do that, as well as the mailboxes. They weren't in the reserve study, and several of our assets weren't in the reserve study. Basically, just the fixed asset listing and accounting was on the reserve study, which isn't a complete list. Like the fixed asset listing just says, well, you built this building in 1972 and here's the building. But the reserve study is more detailed, and it says here are the walls and here are the electrical systems and the safety systems, and you gotta paint the outside and do a roof, and all these things have different life cycles. And so they came out and did an on-site audit and got all those things added. And then next year for 2020, it will be their next on-site audit to come out and make sure that everything that's on there still is as it should be, evaluated correctly for the current condition that it's in. You know, when they do their initial valuation, it's for the current condition. When you get a new asset, they assume you're gonna maintain it. So if you haven't been maintaining it, then they'll shorten its life cycle, right? If you didn't clean your roof, now it's only gonna last 20 years instead of 30, so they'll change that year on there based on their evaluation looking at it. And then our reserve consultants are also CPAs, which is really great. That's actually pretty unique from what I've seen looking at reserve consultants. And our reserve consultant actually also helped to write, they're out of Oregon and they also practice in Washington State, but they helped write the Oregon law for how reserve studies should be conducted, and to ensure, at least in Oregon law, that it's a requirement that you have a maintenance plan to go with your reserve study to maintain the assets. And so that's why we went with this firm, is because they also practice in Washington State. They help write the law in Oregon, and they know about maintenance plans. And most of the companies that we call here in Washington, since it's not a requirement, are not familiar with this idea. Oh, a plan to maintain the assets in the reserve study. So they've been a really great company to work with.
And they kind of helped us select our current software.
They did,
Maintenance,
yes. Maintenance connection. Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
There was something floating around, I sent it to you, it was a surprise to me. People believe for some reason that we have dirt, undeveloped land in our reserve study. Could you comment on that?
So there is no undeveloped land in the reserve study. There's a feasibility study for the airport, like what we should do with the land, but it's not the value of the land, and I think that's about $8,000. Actually, all the components that are included in the reserve study are included in your agenda packet tonight, and that's in the SURF budget and the roads budget. So on pages for SURF, it's rather long, but the detail starts on page 43 and goes through page 47, and then roads is 47 and 49. So you can go through and read on there all the components that are in our reserve study. And there's also a feasibility study for area Y, like what should we do with area Y, for $7,000, and then the airport and campground. So a total of $15,405 just to see what we should do with the land, which is not the value of the dirt or the land. So there aren't any trees in the reserve study or common property. Those aren't the kinds of assets that you put to maintain in your reserve study.
Thank you.
Kind of on that same.
Go. Mine is unrelated.
I didn't see you.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did those just pop up this year, or have those previously been in the reserve study?
So they got into the reserve study when Schwinton Company, our current reserve consultants, came on board, and that was, let's see, this is 2019. So this is their third, so it'd been 2017's report. Is they said, well, you have this, and it could be developed for a future use. We suggest you include a cost to kind of see what you want to do with the area. And then if that's something we don't want to fund, then we don't have to, but that was their suggestion. Since it is a big piece of land that we could develop, we could build on it or...
And reserve consultants were the ones that suggested that happen.
Correct.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So my question was, after we get the reserve study back, I'm new to this, so what are the next steps? Then we get that and then we do...
So we've been, it's kind of an in tandem process, creating the reserve study and creating the budget, making sure that we have everything in the correct years and that it's funded correctly. And when the reserve consultants come, so we get our reserve study and we take all of those assets and put them in a spreadsheet and review them and rank and prioritize them for the budget. And then, our managers are here on site looking at especially the equipment. And they can say, well, the reserve consultant had this out for 7 years, but we know it can go another year. And so we suggest you put it out another year. And then when the reserve consultants come on site next year, they'll audit that in person. And so we, in tandem, we got the reserve study back, looked at it all together as a group, the managers, and we're gonna go over this for our SURF budget, but the managers ranked and prioritized all of the assets as high, medium, and low priority. And then the SURF finance group ranked and prioritized all the assets from A, which is most important to the association, to F, which is kind of least important. And then the things that come up as A, high A's are the number one priorities.
And we will discuss that more as we go through SURF, so, but it's good that you're addressing it, because obviously it's a good question. It's on our minds, so great.
So we use the reserve study, I guess, to figure out what our budget should be as far as, and what we should prioritize as far as our current capital assets. Now, it should be kept in mind that anything that's new capital, anything we don't currently own, isn't in the reserve study. So if we wanted to buy a new piece of equipment because it's a better piece of equipment for the job and it's not something we currently have, we wouldn't put that in the reserve study because we don't own it today.
Great, thank you. Mailbox fund research. Give us the background on this. This has been one of our, and I know Penny's waiting to hear the answer on this one.
Great. Well, I got a copy of the measure from that year. Thank you, Penny. Yeah. And so we've sent it over to our attorney to have him comment on whether or not the membership needs to vote to close that fund and roll it into SURF as the membership did with MR&R, or if, part of the board density reduction, with part of the member density reduction funds, or if we can just roll it into SURF and close the account like we do with MR&R. So if that's just a vote of the board or if it's a vote of the membership. And I'm not sure if the attorney has responded yet. No. Okay. So we'll be able to give you a better update.
Have to wait another month, huh?
Well, maybe. I
Pins
hope
and
it won't
needles,
be that
eh?
long. Obviously, it's not highest on our priority list, so whatever they're working on are going to be more important, probably. Okay, good. All right, give us an update on the snow situation. Because last we talked, it was getting pricey.
It's getting pricey.
Getting pricey.
And it's getting pricier now, I guess, or has gotten pricier. Okay.
We're at right now $103,064.32.
In excess of what we budgeted for?
Well, we budgeted for 15,000, so that's not. I did not take that 15,000 out.
So you can.
Sorry, can you repeat the number again?
$103,064.32.
So it's 87. Above what you budgeted.
Yeah, 87 over budget.
How much is labor versus how much is materials? Because the labor would have been budgeted elsewhere.
Well, not all the labor was.
Okay, some is overtime.
Some is overtime.
Yeah, okay.
Some is weekend work, and so none of that labor is budgeted. So, because not all of the labor that wasn't budgeted isn't broken out. Like if you worked on the weekend, it might not necessarily have all been overtime. So I'm working on computing that exact figure.
Okay.
But there's at least about $10,000 of unbudgeted labor in there. And then I'm gonna break it out for the next meeting when we bring the UDR request to say, here are the materials, here's the regular labor, here's the overtime labor and taxes associated with each. So that way, since it's such a long snow event, some of that labor was budgeted.
Mm-hmm.
Are those final numbers?
No, we have, credit card statements take a little bit of time to come out, and I know that there were several, like a lot of supplies to fix the machines for running so long that were ordered. So that this is not a final figure, which is why we don't have a request for you tonight, just an update.
And a warning.
And a warning.
Okay, got it, yeah.
Would be a little higher.
Well, it was quite an unusual event, and hopefully, it was a great thing for Joe to cut his teeth on.
Yeah,
His
it was
first-
wonderful.
I don't know why you're complaining, I personally.
He
Yeah,
wasn't.
you dialed it up for me, didn't you, sweetie?
Well,
Can we
see,
get a historical perspective?
went to Hawaii.
Can we get a historical perspective, year to year, or the last 5 years of what we paid each year, so we can look at budgeting more precisely?
Mm-hmm. Yep, I'll include that.
Yeah, you know, it was funny because last year we thought 15 was gonna be good, but because one of the things we realized was that we weren't having snow every year, and so, you know, we were every other year or every third year, and so we thought, oh, 15's safe. Yeah, we all got surprised by this one, Joe.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah,
you know, if we could control Mother Nature, we would be very rich.
yeah.
That hardly ever snows here, don't worry about it.
Yeah. Put it right in
How
stone.
many times have you heard that now?
Way too many.
Yeah, okay. All right, thanks. So we anticipate next month that we're gonna have a better idea of.
Right,
and
we'll have-
probably
we'll
have the request by
We
then.
will, we'll have all of our costs in by then, we're just
Okay.
waiting, the statements just came out for the credit card, so.
Okay. Okay, very good. All right, shall we begin on the capital requests, and who is going to run this?
I will.
Okay, great, thank you.
The
First
first,
one's on page 9, starts on page 9.
page 9, it is coming out of roads, it is culvert, 25 design. This is part of the 2014 master plan. that
And
you-
we have can we just refer to the roads report in here to show people? That would be on page number,
48, 49.
okay, thank you, 48, 49. I know it's tiny, you guys, but, if you will look at so you see there's a large section at the top, and then as you drop down below that, the little green or tan line, whatever is there, and then the light purple below it. This is where we start. You'll see on, it's like about the 6th or 8th line from the bottom. You see this is actually for capital funds for the culvert 2025. And it shows what the amount is of $59.07 for design. Okay, so you can follow along with these here and see that these are the ones that were scheduled for this year based on the 10-year road plan.
So, it was rated B plus in 2014. As you flip through to page 11, you can actually see the pipe itself. Which shows it rather full and deteriorating. They are CMPs that are in place right now. It would be replaced with plastic, the high density plastic. 59 shows a 3% escalation in cost over the period of time. This is for design. This will be for design work and then completion of project in 2020.
And Wilson has recently reviewed this, so they feel comfortable with the escalation cost being in line. Okay, good. And then the 10% contingency, which is 10% on the 5907.
And this includes the permitting?
Correct.
Yes, design and permitting.
Mhm. All right,
Does change, oh, sorry.
go ahead. What
Does
questions do
changing
you
the
have?
Does changing the material, just when you said that they're changing over to the high density, is that going to extend the anticipated lifetime over what this
Yeah,
one was?
it should. CMP was good piping when it was made, but as it deteriorates, it breaks down rather quickly. Plastic is, as we know, landfills it's 100 years before plastic really starts breaking down. So all these pipes will be replaced with plastics, smooth inside and.
Same, with the same diameter?
Yeah, it's either gonna be a 24 or 30 based off of,
Or
if you
30 inch, I see.
yeah, 24 to 30
Yeah, I
inch,
remember that.
pipe length to be 59 feet. You're looking at 30.1 cubic feet for flood.
And then the actual construction will be next
It
year.
will be actually next year, yes, it'll be bid out at that point.
You have a question, Tony?
So what we're voting on today is just the design work.
Permitting and designing.
So what these figures are on the next page are design and what the anticipated cost to do
Construction
it.
costs, yes.
So on page 10, where you have replacement year, should that be 2020?
Originally, this, it should be correct, yes. Originally, all the design work that we're reviewing today was originally put in the culvert plan for 2018 with construction in 2019.
Okay, that's
We
why
didn't
it's
have,
like that.
that's why it's like that. We didn't have the funding last year to do the design work, and
Yeah,
so
it just didn't
these
match up.
culverts got pushed a year for design and construction.
And the 60, you want to do a motion first before I ask all these
Oh,
questions?
Thank you, that would be nice, yeah.
I don't know how to do the motion, how do you do the motion?
I'd like a motion
Like a-
that you approve the request for, just permitting and design services for culvert 25 for 2019 funding,
A second.
In the amount of 64,908
which includes the
from
contingency.
road, yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay, and you are going to second that, great, thank you. All right, so we have a motion, and I think we can just use the wording that's in here. I think as long as it says from the roads account, it does, okay. All righty, now, we
Can
have
I
a
ask a
second.
question?
Yes, you now may ask a question.
The 64,908 is the $59,007 plus the 10%.
Correct.
So I'm confused, I was confused on the 3% escalation and what's stated here, cost estimate in 2014 dollars on the next page. So I
Right,
don't know, what the actual cost, should it be 59,000 or
it
more?
should be because, no, here's the thing, if you, I know it's hard to read and you may not be able to handle this, so I'll just let you know.
I'll take my glasses
In
off.
the first column, the amount that was assigned to this particular culvert for design work was $50,900 in 2014. I don't know if you can, that would be right.
Right over here, okay.
Okay,
Got it.
this amount of 59,007
Yes,
is the estimated cost
okay.
up to 2019, so it's 5 years ago. Okay, so that's why we're, right,
Mhm.
okay. I
Yeah,
should have let
3%
you answer
every
that.
year. No, you did
No, you did
great.
great.
But I also have a fundamental question as to why are we still referring to 2014 dollars? Why don't we put it
Yeah.
into 2019
Because that
dollars
was-
in this request?
And this down here,
The only reason is because that's our 10-year plan, and Jennifer makes sure that everything that is a number tracks to some other number in a report, and this report is what we base our plan on. So she's pulled the number from here as to what it was originally, and then as Wilson extended this out for 10 years, we're only seeing not the past years, but we're seeing the original cost plus the remaining years, and they actually escalated this to the amount for this year. So the only reason is because that was the original 10-year plan, and that's what we had in the 10-year plan. If somebody wants to go back and look at the 10-year plan and see, oh, the original cost was 50,000, we wanna make certain they understand how we got
Could
there.
we put it in 2019 dollars and put in parentheses below it that the cost of the 2014 cost estimate was X and Y or whatever it is?
These project narratives come directly from Wilson Engineering as our engineers, and so when you look at the 2014 culvert plan, it's over 200 pages, and every single culvert that's in the culvert plan has one of these capital project narratives. So since they were done in 2014 and it's directly from our engineers, it's a PDF document, couldn't edit it.
oh, you can't edit this.
No, and to ask them to do each one of them would be, it's my money.
Alright, it's just
confusing.
very confusing.
So the original cost amount, which is printed very small on page 48, granted, is the $50,900 in the
I got
first
it.
column.
I'm more worried about the $138,000 next year.
And so I think that would become to $164,660. $164,660.
Yeah, cause that's what it will show.
I hear you.
But
I just find it confusing in a document where we're requesting money and we're asking people to look forward into what the costs are currently and in the future, and it's not stated.
somebody looking at this who's not on finance, is not familiar with this, is gonna be totally confused.
So,
You could attach this page to every request.
I don't think that would
Ties it
help.
out.
We've had this problem since the book first came out. It always has in the first column, their dollar amount in 14, and then off to the right. Now, when they manipulate that table, they can put a dollar amount and it will automatically adjust to that year. So this is how they've done it, and we've gone through this every year. It's the same number, but when it comes to construction, that has to go out to bid anyways.
I understand.
So whatever that dollar amount is, it's based on what the
I know, it could
bid
be $500,000, I mean,
Well, I think that their number is a little better dialed in.
alright, so 175. Or maybe
But-
150.
But when you look at this, you're looking at 2014 numbers over here, not 2020 numbers.
So we're gonna be looking at 2014 numbers for another 5 years,
Yeah,
okay?
which is,
That's-
so this page right here is right off of Wilson's.
That is out of the 10-year plan.
Okay.
Mhm. And, you know, I'm open to other suggestions, just know that, any changes we request of Wilson is going to cost us money to rewrite the report.
Well,
and
I'm sorry, but you can put a box on a PDF document and you can put a line in there. I mean, you can create a text box on a PDF document and put something else in there.
I'm fine with that. If
I
it
mean,
is-
it's just confusing, and I had no idea that this was a 2014 document.
Would you be better off not having that document in your packet?
I don't think we've had that in the past.
You see, I don't
think we, have we? I don't
We
remember.
put it in the packet, we get the pictures.
I don't have a problem with it being in the packet, but you could say, you
Oh,
could
but
put
you
these
do.
in the 20, I don't know, I don't have a problem with it being in the packet, as long as the information makes sense. And if you, I didn't know that this was a 2014 document.
Yeah, it doesn't have a date on
It
it.
doesn't have a date on it at all, it
No.
looks like it's from 2019, so that's the part that's confusing to me, and it's also in $2014, which I don't appreciate.
So, Madam Treasurer, I think rather than trying to make a special case on every document, it would be better to train the members of the Finance Committee on the 2014 plan, as we have done in the past, to say, this is the book, these are what the numbers mean, and maybe we do not attach the narrative and let the GM and the accounting manager use the data to write their bust memo, because they're all gonna be this way, and then we would be asking them to do a lot of extra work. I think that it's better to not ask them to do extra work and to train members of finance on, this is how the book is laid out.
If that solves the problem, we can work and come up with another option, and then if that works, does that work for you? If we just leave this out, I mean, I think we're trying to provide,
I'm not, so, I know the Finance Committee is gonna be educated on this, and we know what it is. What I'm concerned with, when other members read this, they won't understand what we're doing.
again,
Well-
hang on a second, go ahead, Karen.
Sorry, this is drafted by you guys recently, right? I'm just wondering if there's a way to put into that simply where you're tying it out, so you're taking it from the 2014 plan, and it's very clear, it's just a small little table, but it's maybe just in the memo that you're already drafting, that would kind of walk anyone that was reading it through the steps of, we went from 2014 out of the 3% escalation to get to this, and that way you can always tie back, I know that's an important thing for you, to be able to tie back and to reference it, and then it would walk us through the steps of exactly where it's coming from, and with that,
Yeah, or call this an appendix, I mean,
Yeah.
an appendix support documentation is the 2014.
All right, so I think we've got some really good ideas. I think rather than, if you're okay with where we are tonight on this, because they're all gonna be like this tonight. But for future, I'll work with, and Paul and I will work with Joe and Jennifer and see if we can come up with an alternative way of doing it for future years. I don't know how many more we're gonna have this year, because this is pretty much the whole roads plan for the year. But I think it would be good for future, if we had, something that might follow along that. So is that okay? And we'll bring it to the finance committee once we have a suggestion. Is that good? Okay, great, thank you. Because we will have some more stuff next. Okay, good, thank you. What else on this?
Call the question.
Okay, those in favor of approving the $64,908 from the roads fund to, design and permit culvert 25, please signify by raising your hand. Okay, it's unanimous. I'm also gonna, just make note that Colin is not here this evening, so, note that was, did not include. Yeah, that's true. Okay, good. All right,
Okay, the next one.
moving on to the next one,
is
similar situation.
Similar, the next.
Page
full-
12.
Yeah, page 12, all the culverts will be under the same format that we just went through.
That's fine.
Culvert 200 design, it will be, under yearly in place. It is rated C in 2014. The pipe is about a third full of sediment and debris. Same thing, it is, it's a CMP pipe, 12 inch, it'll be replaced with an 18 inch, pipe. The request would be $11,988 from roads for design and permitting for construction in 2019. 2020.
I move to recommend to the board that they approve the request for $11,987 from the roads capital account to handle pipe, whatever, 200, culvert 200. It's one of those numbers.
Okay, okay, moved by Penny, seconded by Paula. What questions do we have on this one?
I think we're answering the previous one.
I think we got most of it.
I think we just kind of, could we do a mass?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can,
we-
but if you've read them all.
I did, I read them all.
I think everybody's read, if you've all read the,
I mean, it just seems like I didn't come up with any one of these that I had any particular questions
Yeah.
on.
yeah,
Okay.
okay.
So-
Do you wanna do just the culverts, are you okay with, or instead, not all of the requests, right, just the culverts? Cause the others should be, I think, handled differently.
The culverts,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, just the four
So
culverts.
can I,
You
so I
may amend your
amend my
motion if you
motion
wish to
to,
do the other three.
There's a list on the phone.
right, that we do, I amend my motion that we recommend to the board that they approve the design and permitting for culverts 200, 212, 213, and 315,
At the dollar amounts.
At the
Dollar
dollar.
amounts
As
stated.
packet.
as stated in the packet.
Out of the roads fund.
On the roads capital fund.
I need a second
I
to
said
that.
all of that.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Karen. All right.
So, Jamie, you're
I know it.
That kept 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But we have to vote. Don't we have to vote?
Yes, we do. I was waiting to see if
Okay.
anyone had any concerns or questions. All right, those in favor of approving all three funding requests, unanimous. Thank you, Penny, for your creative thinking.
Well,
I don't like to rush people to these things, but since you're comfortable with it, I'm comfortable. All right, moving on to rec corridor parking lot parking.
Yes,
Patching, sorry,
patching.
patching.
Again, this was, in 2011, it was, from the road study, was identified as, a number one priority for repair and replacement. The parking lot has continued to be in disrepair.
Oh, do you have a question? Are we good?
no, it's just so typical Sutton Valley. Yeah, it was number one in 2011.
Oh, yeah.
Now we're just about getting to it in 2019, so.
Okay, sorry, go ahead, Joe.
So, scope of work, parking lot will be rebuilt, stuff will be put in, asphalt, or
Patch.
patch, and
Not
then
patch,
It will be hot patch,
Hot patch.
and we will microsurface, it includes all design permits, taxes with a 20% contingency.
So will this be hot patch this year? Or, I mean not hot patch this year. Will it be resurfaced, part of the resurfacing plan for this year?
This will, go out to competitive bid for 2019.
Okay. So it won't be part of the micro sealing that we're doing on the roads?
We'll try to tie it in if we can
If
with
we
them.
can,
Mhm.
that's good.
Yeah, while they're here, because, you'll see down the road, we have some more stuff coming,
Yeah.
while they're immobilized.
Be great if they could
Okay.
Get it all
fit
done
together.
They're all done in one shot, yep.
Good,
Nice.
good economies of scale if we can. Good, all right.
Can I?
Yes, go ahead.
Question. No, do you?
So you're doing draining, patching, permitting, and microsurfacing all this year? Right?
Mhm.
Okay. So the numbers you're using are from a revitalization estimate, right? Okay. So you're going in and asking for all the money, but you still have to go out to bid on it to validate that the number's gonna come in. Okay. I wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
What were you saying?
Well, the thing that I was confused by is this it didn't sound like when I read it the first time, maybe I read it wrong, that this was a permanent fix. This was it was an interim extensive fix to last a while, but not permanent. Is that right?
Correct, it is a temporary, to temporarily extend the life of the parking lot.
That back row parking,
I
when you
know.
come right behind it, it's all that area where the drainage is. Just patch that back there.
You mean where the gravel is, where the parking lot was?
Yeah, that's the place.
Yeah. So, first of all, do we have a motion for this one?
Well, yeah, but it's intimidating to say.
No, listen, we should have a motion before we discuss
Yeah.
it. It doesn't mean that we're gonna actually necessarily approve it, so.
No, I know, it's a lot of words.
I know.
So,
I'll make a motion.
yeah, you do
Okay,
it.
I'm gonna make a motion that we fund the temporary life extension of the rec corridor parking lot, which will be designed and work installed in 2019. And that includes having the actual construction work bid out competitively, on these dollar amounts from the roads fund.
okay, for $107,000.
I second.
Okay. Did you catch that? Are you okay with that?
I have most of it, and I'll.
Okay, do you wanna read it back to us and we'll straighten it out before we actually vote on it?
Right, so the move for the finance committee to approve and recommend the board of directors on the temporary life extension of the rec corridor parking lot, which will be designed, and the
And the construction bid
construction,
out
construction bid out
in 2019.
For $107,000.
For $107,000 from the roads fund. Thank you. I feel better about having it, everybody agrees that that's the amount. Okay, now we have the bid, the motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Tony.
Better second.
I lost it in the, yes, go ahead, Penny.
So, we're thinking it's gonna be 107,000. So this one's an odd one for me without having, I don't know, some kind of bids already that say, here's what it's gonna cost. So help me with that thinking and process.
Going off the estimates that we have, on page 24 and 25.
And when were these done? 2017?
No, 2019, they're done earlier
Oh,
this year.
okay. So these are
Oh, okay.
recent, okay.
Okay, good, that's good to know.
24. So this is recent,
This is not part of the 2014 road plan.
so that's
apparently.
not part of the next thing. Thank you.
So we don't have it in the road.
Okay.
It is in the Rose Plan,
That's
it's
what I
just
thought.
not part of the 2014
Okay, it's up
stormwater.
above in
Right,
the
it's
first
above.
section.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
So the clarification is that in 2011, our roads plan then, which was very thin, said go fix that parking lot number one part. Earlier this year, you got an updated estimate to do this.
Mhm.
2.5 years ago, Woolsey did a small estimate, which you're not using, you're using this one.
Correct.
So from 11 to then this year's estimate. Okay, that makes sense.
Mhm.
So
We're
it's
better
this
about that.
R15.
Yeah.
And this includes a 20% contingency on top of that?
The estimate already includes the 20%
Correct.
contingency, yeah, so it's in there just in case construction
Right.
costs come back much higher, and hopefully they won't, since we'll already have a crew mobilized for micro sealing.
That sounds a lot better than off of 2011 numbers.
Yeah, it's not off the 2011 numbers. So it's a really short turnaround for this project, because we have to go out and get a bid and get all the work done, you have to do it all within the,
4-month window.
yes,
4 months, right.
right, and get all the permits before then as well.
Design and permitting in 3 months with construction at 4 weeks.
Mhm.
Is
Mhm.
the,
But, and the construction can only happen during that
Yes,
window.
we're within,
So how much disruption do you expect? I mean, we got, I don't know, how many people a week coming through here in the summer? 800-900, I think, for the pool, over
A
the pool.
day?
Well,
Yeah. We have a lot during the day.
Yeah.
we have black
Yeah.
Wednesday.
quite a bit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think last August, we had at least 3,500 in that month that came through here, so I don't know what that worked out to.
That's
per
only
day,
a
but-
little over 100, but I think we're already seeing much bigger
Yeah.
numbers for just
Oh, I'm sure.
gym, the health center and
So I guess I'm just wondering, what, is it gonna be like the whole place is shut down, or are they gonna
Yeah,
be able
we-
to kinda?
We would work with the contractor to shut certain areas down at certain times so that we could keep traffic flow. Like,
Okay.
you know,
Oh, I guess we do have golf parking too, I mean,
I mean, we
think of a
wouldn't,
hall with
I
your pool
mean,
back.
there's ways we could, we could look at the site plan and move vehicles around. That
Okay.
wouldn't be a problem.
Okay,
The good thing about the
So you keep
micro
the
seal,
flow.
the good thing about the micro seal is it goes down in a slurry and you can paint it in a couple hours, so it hardens
Okay.
very quick. So I think the most disruption would be probably isolated patching of potholes there. And once that's done, then they'll slurry coat, and that's a fast process, you can drive on it in a couple hours.
that is good. So how, does Wilson give us an idea of how long the life might be extended for this?
I think they did, didn't they?
I don't remember reading it, but I might have just missed it.
Well, the whole rec corridor parking lot design and reconstruction isn't in our budget until 2025 and 2016.
But that's assuming we did it back in 2007 probably. No, probably not actually, because we didn't do it last year.
No, I mean, this is they
That's the updated.
they've
reserve
just
that we
updated
got.
this plan
Yeah.
and reviewed all of our assets, and so
Mhm.
that's their estimate
So
with
we
the
have to
current
keep
state.
it going for 6 more years, and this sounds like it might do that,
Mhm.
yeah,
What we're
okay.
looking at micro sealing is a 7 to 10 year.
7 to 10 year
Coating.
replacement, yeah.
And they're
So we
doing,
might get a little more out of it even.
might,
Depending on traffic and usage and.
Traffic, I guess I'm concerned about, when you patch and microseal, I mean, a lot of this is, I think the land has encroached on some of the roadway, and, you know, there are a lot of, I guess, concerns I have about whether it's laid out properly and all of that, but at this point, you know, and even, but, and then to make it last 7 more years, is that where we should spend money, I guess? We need to, because it's certainly in bad shape.
it's a question, should we spend $107,000 on the highest priority we had 8 years ago
8 years ago, right?
that we haven't done anything on?
Mhm.
We haven't done anything on any parking lot, really.
Then you said now it looks like it's a parking lot that now looks like gravel,
Yeah.
because it's so
It's more-
They
deteriorated.
did try to do some work last year, and look what it looks like now.
Yeah,
They did some patching last year, and it's worse now.
Yeah, but the slurry or the
Yeah.
micro seal should hold it together once they patch it.
And, you know, this is, we could say 7 years, but we don't know what we're gonna be doing with this area
No.
between now and 7 years from now, so that could all change.
well, my concern would be with, especially as much traffic as we have here right now,
Yeah,
that if
it
we don't
needs
do
it.
this, we're going to continue to see worse
Yeah.
and worse deterioration.
I was gonna ask, so what, I don't know how much this would impact it, but if the sand and all that moves, we wouldn't have so many big trucks coming down here either, I would imagine that would
Yeah,
potentially
you
help
would,
things.
with the barn moving, yeah, your heavy equipment would be
I feel like that's
minimal.
probably contributing to it quite a bit, cause there, I mean, it seems to have had a lot of wear over just this winter, and I can understand why, you know, with the weather that we had and then all the big trucks, you know, and everything.
True. Okay. Other questions? Okay.
You know, follow up on Karen's idea, if your new building is finished in Area Z in August, this would be a nice September job. Do the job right after all the heavy trucks have been
If it's
moved down here.
possible, if you can
If it can be
schedule something
sequenced
that
that way.
tight.
It might take a lot of wizardry to make sure it happens,
Yeah,
they're real
exactly.
strict about
Well,
those
it's
water
worth a shot.
deadlines.
Assuming we do not have another labor union strike like we did last
Oh,
September.
please, no. I
Is-
couldn't bear it.
Is this one of the jobs that you're looking at doing with other work, bringing it all in together, or is this one that could, cause if we did that, then you'd be looking at another mobilization,
Something earlier.
Right.
Yeah.
if
That's,
we did do it
that would be
together.
an advantage, I mean,
Yeah.
That would be
Yeah.
an advantage while the company is in here,
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
get them, while they're here doing the roads, come in and finish this job here.
yeah.
Cause then we, if not, we'd have
But
another.
they're gonna be here earlier, we think, right,
Yeah.
than September, so in that case, if we're gonna do this one and we wait, then it would wouldn't
There's gonna be a
matter, we'd probably have to
mobilization.
have somebody else, or we could get bids from other people and it
We
might
could
not
do the
be
patching
better.
early on,
Yeah,
just
the
not the slurry coat.
The patch could go in.
Okay.
So the other road work that we're planning on doing this year, that's been sent out to bid already, or?
It's in this package, it's a
We're
Okay,
change.
gonna
so-
have this
so-
approved tonight.
Okay, so everything can be sent out to bid inclusive.
Well,
Well, it's- What we have, it's in the package here, it'll be a change order for the company since they are on site.
They're holding $220,000 in approved work for slurry coating.
Okay, so that's already been bid out.
That's been bid out,
Okay.
they have a change order in here for
Okay.
it.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll talk about that in a minute, because
Yeah.
there's some other things to keep in mind about that as far as cost and so forth, so. Fund 6. We may even be demolishing Fund 6, and that would be good to get that down before we do the paving, I would think, because there'll be some heavy equipment in here, okay. All right, what else? How about this item? Call the question, all right, those in favor of approving this, okay? Unanimous. Next is the foundation removal,
Yes.
barn 7 and
Over
rotunda.
time, yes. Design, we're requesting $70,000. It'll go out to competitive bid for the removal this year of both the old foundation here and the old foundation from the rotunda.
And when were these estimates for?
These were
Were these this year also?
2017.
2017.
Oh, these are 2017, okay. So this, was this
Before we
during the
talk,
time
we
of
have
the
to have a motion,
renovation?
right?
Yeah, we do, that would be nice.
I'd like to make a motion to, allow removal of barn 7 and rotunda foundations as stated.
I'll second that.
Now, I'd like to ask, why why would you not pull this back and just ask for the amount of money to put it out to bid and then come back and ask for the money once it's awarded?
It was on the study.
We put out a lot of work to bid, we're gonna be doing a lot of bids, and, generally, you've got in here already several projects of going out to bid and the funds to award. I think you're giving yourself maybe too much of the noose, I'm just cautioning you. I think this one, it's not crushing, priority. I would caution you to ease back on this one, get enough money to put it out to bid, and then come back when the bids come in, because we don't know what the bidding season's gonna be like this year. My caution to you.
I think that might be wise only because, prices have gone up and a lot of things as well. So I'm fine with either way, but, okay.
Are we,
And I had another question, I know, I've never seen one of these before from this Newman and Associates that says, oh yeah, this can come from the road reserve fund.
Okay,
Give me a little information on that, cause
Yes,
I
will
would not have anticipated this coming out of the roads.
Okay, hang on a second, we'll get there. But
Okay.
here's the first thing I wanna make sure of is, so Mitch, you've made a motion, and so we have a motion on the floor.
So we could talk about it.
And so I think I got it, so we could talk about it. You made a recommendation that we pull back and just send it out to bids. So what would be your recommendation if we, for the finance committee to, consider this, you wanna put a dollar amount on it, ask them to bring it back later with just, I mean, we don't wanna delay this another month, do we? How critical would it be if we
45,
did?
55, 6. Joe, you got 6,000 in direct, put some contingency on that, make it $7,000, ask for $7,000 for permitting, ESD, construction services, and putting it out to bid, get the spec, put it out to bid, and, get your bids back.
and you lost.
Yeah. So I think we have to talk about that, so, yeah, so I mean, that's why I don't wanna just go forward with it.
After $7,000 gets
We need that.
9,000.
The permitting,
Plus-
yeah.
The design.
Hang on, let her calculate what she thinks would need to be done in order to do it in the way Mitch is recommending, so that she's comfortable that we would have enough
We
money.
need, $9,548, so $9,500.
Or,
Well, with these
Okay.
estimates for the permitting, the design services on both, and then a 3% escalation for 2
Okay.
years,
Mhm.
$9,500.
We're
Okay.
going out to bid, I mean, it's no different here, it's just, I think, give yourself a little bit of a check valve. I think, it's just a cautionary move.
Okay.
So what he's saying is that rather than going out for the money for the whole project, let's get enough money to just find out what a contractor would do it for, and, to get some design work and so forth.
We're gonna get a bid.
We're gonna get a bid, in other
Get
words.
multiple bids.
But that will give us money to do the design, get the permitting, and then find out more specifically what the contractor will charge us to do the work.
And can we do it this year?
And can we do it this
Come
year?
back with a better number.
and my next question is, do we have to do the lawn? Because I have some other ideas, something that we could do. No, it happened to come up in the parks meeting last night, and, you know, yeah, there are other ways that we can use concrete slabs, you know, that, for recreation kinds of things, and so I think Maddie has some ideas too. I mean, we're not at anywhere in a place to say, here, do this, but I'm just thinking that there might be other uses for it than putting in the lawn potentially.
This
so.
reinforces, I think, where I'm at with you. Parks has some input on this because it's their area, it's in the rec corridor. So work with them, put together the spec, but it wouldn't stop you
From getting
from
it.
going out and getting a bid. Just, this gives you some time to get some input from Parks and Rec,
Mhm.
what they want the final area to look like.
All right, so given that, do you wish to amend or withdraw your motion and start again, or what would be your recommendation?
Yeah.
I'm gonna withdraw my motion.
Okay, all right, so the motion was withdrawn. Do I have a new motion to consider? Yes?
I'll make a motion to go, you said 9,500?
Mhm.
I'll make a motion to recommend to the board that, we approve that they approve $9,500 from, and I'm gonna say for right now,
Roads
the Roads Capital Fund, to do the design, permitting, and, bidding process to remove the,
Two foundations.
the two foundations from Barn 7 and Rotunda.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now can we discuss?
Yes, we can
Help-
now
help me-
discuss, how come roads?
Yeah, help me with that.
Yeah, I know that, but I'm gonna let Jennifer answer.
Doesn't make sense, but.
Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question real quick? Is the engineering design services, is that automatically Wilson, or do we,
They've already started
they've
that.
already okay, we already have
Mhm. But
in
the
for
bids will,
finalization
the bids will be
process.
competitive bid.
Okay,
For construction.
so, do we sort of have a sole source for most of our design work? It's typically Wilson, but then when we bid out for actual construction,
Yeah, it'll go
Yes.
out, Wilson primarily does all the design, and then it goes out to bid from there.
Okay, so to answer Penny's question about the roads account,
Well, I think originally in 2017 during the revitalization process, the idea was that those areas would likely become parking lots. And so parking lots are part of the roads fund, and it was included and budgeted in roads at that time. It hasn't been requested to be moved.
in other words, the money has been budgeted there. Now, the thing is, we can move it if we wish, but that's where the funds have been set aside.
Okay. I just didn't think that the foundation on the side of the hill in the rotunda was
If you're gonna pave
was a
over,
high
Yeah.
probability that it would be even paved, let alone be used as a parking lot. But,
well, it may not be, depending on what Karen.
no, I know, but I'm talking about just,
Yeah, the
just for
rotunda
the
is-
rotunda just doesn't.
no, but even still, I mean, over the years, there has been talk of a lot of different things for that area, you know, it's nice.
No, it
to
just
do.
didn't feel
Yeah.
like roads as opposed to.
No,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you, I agree, but that's where it was put
Okay.
originally, and.
It's not equipment. It's not a building. It's not, I'm sorry.
Nothing.
It's nothing.
Yeah.
And it's greater than $2,500.
It's a pain, is what it is.
And so since it's greater than $2,500 by our rules, it's capital.
Mhm.
And it's preparatory for a future event. And it is not equipment. And so the only other way you could look at this is roads.
And there has been, I mean, I wanna say, I had seen something somewhere that, there's been talk over the years of possibly parking lots
Daycare,
or
new
things up
building,
there.
a park area.
Yeah, gazebo was one, right?
So, had this been removed, when we removed the building, where would the funds have come from?
Capital, roads.
Capital Roads? That's where the building funds?
If the building was in place and we took the foundation out and the building, would that be all part of capital, right?
Well,
Sure.
Well, they're all served.
It was
Sure.
served, wasn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The Barn 6 Foundation is budgeted to come out of CERF.
So at the time,
Six Foundation?
6. Yeah, the 6 Foundation.
Six, because we're
six.
taking the entire building at one time.
Right, the entire building at one
so if
time.
we were to take the entire building and foundation at that time, it would have been served.
Mhm.
Because we took just the building out, it's no longer an asset.
Mhm.
And can't be put out,
Okay.
taken out of service.
It's actually really no longer an asset, so much so that we had to get our auditors, both our prior auditors and our current auditors, to approve the use of capital funds.
That's what the Newman and Associates letter is.
And so there are actually two, one of them is with demolition costs, one's with the culvert vegetation control, and typically demolition costs are, even just to tear down the building, much less to remove the foundation, I mean, you don't have anything when you're done, that's it, it's just gone. And so it was actually, those costs are expensed on your income statement, it's not even capitalized, cause you don't get anything out of it.
Got it.
But because we're a homeowners association, and that land is all common property, and it's gonna continue to be common property, and our common property is an asset of the association, we can use our capital funds to demolish buildings and remove the foundations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
And Karen, you were talking about, once we take out the foundation for Barn 7, that the park's going to do something with that area.
Well, I think we want to at least explore it. I think there's a whole lot of talk about this area down here, and so, you know, there's part of me that's like, yeah, it'd make an awesome basketball court or whatever, and then another part that's like, well, hold on, you know, maybe this needs to be part of a bigger plan before we invest in it. So I'm not prepared to say anything tonight other than it would be nice before we invest in putting a lawn in it even to kind of maybe have some time to think about what would make
Yeah.
sense.
Can I call the question?
You may call the question unless there is an objection. All right, go for it. Call the question.
I call the question.
All right, those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Okay, all right, so $9,500 was a design permitting and bidding. Next one on this is the vegetation control, and this happens every year.
It happens every year. It was voted on by the membership in 2016. And it was also, the funding was approved by Newman, our auditor. We're asking for $172,396.
Okay.
I'd like to
and now-
point out, it was revalidated by Newman, our prior auditor said it, so now a second audit has also agreed.
Okay, so is this, it wasn't yet made, the motion wasn't made, I was thinking you were making a motion, but we can't do that.
I'd like to make a motion that we have culvert vegetation control in 2019 as voted on by the membership 3 years ago. And it will come out of the roads capital account as approved by the membership, and an allocation this year not to exceed $172,396 for maintenance of ditches, culverts, and swales.
Second.
Okay, that was Penny. Okay, and Jennifer, do you wanna explain, cause this, originally it was 102.
Correct.
So let's talk about how we got to 172,396 this year.
Great, so we did, every year we estimate all of our labor, that includes our capital labor. When the original motion was put before the membership in 2016, our labor costs for maintenance workers were much lower. Our maintenance workers were significantly underpaid according to market, and we were having difficulty retaining them. And so over the years, we have slowly stepped up their wages to be more market competitive, especially with the increase in minimum wage. This year, actually, we're having trouble even just finding staff to fill these positions. We started looking for staff early because we thought that because the labor market is tight. And so that estimate is for 5 months of work for our staff plus an approximate $20,000 for materials and supplies, and also a contractor to come in to work on the really steep parts of the road. Our rigs don't go on the very steep parts of the road, and so we want to go back and get those areas as well. And so this estimate is all inclusive, and then the two numbers on your road study are the last two numbers right before the grand total, or of course subtotal stormwater. You'll see ditch reconstruction repairs contract and ditches, culverts, and swales staff 2016 SGM mandate. So both of those together are the 172,396.
So the 108,742 is the escalated amount of the 102 from
Correct.
when we actually passed it, and the additional 63,654 is what you were describing.
Mm-hmm.
Does that require flaggers when they do that?
It requires flaggers. We
Yeah.
hire.
You'd have to have flaggers with us on that type of work.
Which means also flagger training.
Rich, I can do that. Good job.
Okay.
Don't talk so loudly, Tom.
Yeah, yeah.
No.
We're looking for
We're
recording.
looking for people.
Lisa may be
Yeah.
calling you.
We have it on tape.
Yeah.
A little part-time job.
Good part-time job.
You look good in this.
Is that safety yellow? Yeah.
Yeah.
Orange is the new, yeah.
It interferes with my
All right,
golf
what questions do you have about this? Then there's a map that shows, oh no, that's not the
That's
map.
not it.
Sorry, that's a map for something.
Is there a map?
Never mind. No, there's not a map. I don't know what we're doing this, which
Yeah.
sections we're doing this year.
Do you,
I'll have to get a map for that. I will provide the committee with a map.
Okay.
Bruce has it all.
I'm sure he has it all planned out, yeah, definitely.
Or the
Okay.
Explorer song.
Okay,
do you know,
Oh, for the
yes,
question?
yeah, okay, the
I'm gonna
question.
ask a quick question, do you
Yes,
know
please.
approximately how much we are able to do every year, is it, you know?
Yeah,
how
we
many
got an
miles?
estimate of how we're progressing? Any idea? This is our third year now?
Easiest viewed on the maps.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we don't have those here
Yeah,
tonight.
yeah, okay. Just, and of course, we
Follow
picked
up
some of the
with finance.
toughest areas initially because
Yeah.
that's where the worst problems lay. And so hopefully we'll start to get a handle on it and be able to say whether we're gonna be able to do it in 10 years or not. So, yeah, that'd be great.
Is there anything in particular that we learned in the past 2 years that is going to help us for this coming year? Anybody?
All right.
That might be Mitch.
Yes,
I
would
think
probably
that
be
we've
able to-
learned
yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
each year, actually. Some years renting equipment as opposed to using our own, the flail cutter, and then coming back in and trimming behind it. The process they've used, we were keeping track at feet per day and wrote articles on it, so we were kept a metric going of how many, feet per day we were doing to keep up on it. I think that the crew has learned a lot. The problem that Jennifer mentioned earlier is if you can't keep bringing back the same crew, then you start all over again. Now, as long as your leadership remembers those lessons, it's something.
How is our retention?
I don't think,
Wait till she,
Our full-time staff our retention is really good, but the seasonal staff are very fresh every year.
We've lost them, we've hired them, and they haven't shown up. We've hired them, they've shown up for 2 days and left.
No
That's-
call, no show.
No call, no show.
Got a
The
better
problem
job.
is you've
closer
got
to
a
home.
You guys aren't alone in that, I deal with it every day.
but the key is, the challenge, the additional challenge is that you train them.
Yeah.
And you
Mhm.
think, okay, now you have somebody who can get something done,
Mhm.
and that's when they find another job that's.
Hey, I already got my flagger class, what are you paying?
Yeah,
There's
uh-huh,
a huge cost to that kind of thing.
so,
Mhm.
anyway, we're trying to come over.
That's, you're right. It's a huge cost to the association to spend that money and then have to start over again and over again and over again, which is why bringing them up on market wage so they're competitive, we don't lose that money and we don't lose that efficiency.
Retention costs less than replacement.
Right,
You bet
and
it
this
does.
this is one thing, and I know this is tiny bit off the topic, but it's one reason I think it's brilliant that we use our turf care during the winter time to help the maintenance staff with taking care of the snow removal and so forth, because first of all, they have a full-time job instead of a seasonal job, which means we're more likely to keep them. And in addition to that, then everybody's cross-trained, and we have enough people to actually, to try to hire a part-time person or a seasonal person or a temporary person to remove snow on our roads with our equipment. The training would be just, it would just be
You have a hard time probably insuring that, I mean, I
I
probably
thought-
speak to that as well,
Take
the insurance would
take
be pretty
a
difficult on
young
that.
person and put him in $100,000 truck on our narrow, very slippery roads in the dark, trying to operate a plow, a sander, and they'll be going into someone's home, alright? So this is not something that you give, just pick up people along the way and say, come here, I got a part-time job for you.
Or a 70-year-old.
So Tony's
In other words, that's the job Tony doesn't want.
You already volunteered to be the flagger for that, so.
He's not gonna farm next year.
Yeah.
zero turn radius lawn.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. What other questions do you have?
I call a question.
All right, those in favor of, the $172,396 from the roads capital to perform capital maintenance of ditches, culverts, and swales, please signify by raising your hand. Okay, good. Unanimous. Okay, and the reason we do that, just another piece I meant to mention is there was a lot of concern when we first approved this, that it would continue. That is why it's in the Wilson plan. It's in the 10-year plan, it's brought up and funded every single year, so, and it's escalated every year so that the money never gets spent on anything else except what the membership voted for.
I'd also like it noted that all the special items that were approved at that 2016 meeting are printed in our annual AGM packet materials for posterity, so they can't get lost.
Perfect. That's great. All right, next on our agenda is the resurfacing.
Yes, this is a change order.
Yep.
As it was brought up earlier, there was a labor strike last year, and you guys had voted on this prior. This is a continuation, which would be the next phase. While they are here, we have them immobilized. I'm asking for $377,300, which is 10% of the $343, which is budgeted for this year. The extra is 10% contingency.
Yeah, got it.
They are on site, they are immobilized. We'll have them do the
So
rest.
essentially what we're having them do is last year's work that was approved, as well as what was going to be done this year, and just try to do both years
Right.
at the same time, and have they, well, before I go there, is there a motion for us to consider this?
So moved.
Okay, very good, and I like it. And
Brevity,
it
I like
certainly,
brevity.
it certainly makes, Jamie's job easy too, yeah. Is there a second?
Just follow.
Second.
Okay, and seconded by
Follow
Paula.
the things,
Okay.
yeah.
So, I guess the question I have first is, have they indicated that there is going to be any challenge in bringing that amount of work to us and getting it done?
I have not heard anything from anyone on that.
Okay, all right, you haven't really talked to them on it, we're just
Yeah.
assuming they'll be able to do it?
Yeah, I have not heard anything. I can ask,
Okay.
Wilson on that, since it is for them.
Okay, so they did this out already with the contractor? who-
Well, that was the contractor. We'll use the same contractor
Yeah,
they
that we
used
did
last
last
time.
year,
Yes.
okay, and,
Point of
The other-
information on that, they guarantee to lock in no change, no cost.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say is, except the laser contract.
Well, there's actually gonna be a slight reduction in cost,
How
Raw
did that
materials.
happen?
because they're already on site.
Oh, so
So-
this is going to be a little bit less than was projected.
Right, so
That
that's
is-
part of why the number's in red, is she was working on it, getting it
Right.
down. So,
Ah.
cause they were already gonna be on site, and so they did lock in the price in that
Mhm, they
contract,
did.
you're correct, Mitch, but now because we have the expanded scope, your fixed costs are
That's
gonna be
understood.
spread out over a larger area, and so your price has gone down per linear foot.
That would lend me to believe that they think they can do it all.
I
No
think-
problem, yeah.
Also, the good
How
thing
would
with,
you be grateful for a labor strike?
No.
one other point that with this, we might be able to, not having some of this work ever done before, we might be able to, going forward, put metal plow to ground with this, which will help in snow.
Whoa.
Not sure yet,
Mind blown.
but it might be something that might be able to be
I'm
done.
not sure you should have said that.
I said might.
Yeah, I know, but still. Some people take might as will,
Can
you
we
know.
hold the mic?
We'll have to see how I've never seen this application used, so I don't,
So is somebody telling you this, that it could in fact be?
I don't know.
We talked about it earlier today, I'm the someone that might. So we were talking
Liz,
about
you're
this,
such a troublemaker.
I know, we were talking about this, that given that it levels out and
Yeah.
it seeks its own service.
Okay.
So if it does this, then it's something for us to immediately investigate before winter hits again. Could we put a metal plow
What about the
in?
little blue reflector lights that are in the, what do you call them? In the roof?
They're to signify your fire hydrants.
I understand that, but,
You could flag the fire hydrant, actually, there's
and they
a,
just lift it up for an
No.
inch and, no?
you actually put a flag on one of the outlets to the fire hydrant, so.
Oh,
it'll
so you
stand-
slurry over it and?
No, you take the blue thing out, you actually put a.
Oh, you take it out.
You put a
Okay,
metal
Got it.
flag
Got
on the fire hydrants itself.
got it. Okay.
So it's something for us to look at.
What about the speed bumps?
Who?
The speed bumps, those things get hidden in the snow.
So, yeah, well, but we know, we have maps showing the
Where
speed
they are,
bumps.
yeah.
That's why you wanna have trained operators, it's like,
Right.
boom, that was a speed bump. I said, was a speed bump, wasn't it?
I know they have signs, but every once in a while, they-
But again, that's a good point. With the operators that we have, the more training that we can get them on the road, they will know should know where the bumps are.
If we keep getting as much snow as we do, we need, taller markers on the side of the road for the speed bumps. 'Cause right now, they're only about this tall.
Well, they could be flagged the same way. We could put higher.
Higher flags
higher
on it,
pins in
okay.
there.
Just thinking
You
that
know,
that might be a better
I
idea.
wanna stop talking about snow. I
Yeah.
really hope we don't have to mention it again for another couple of years, but oh well.
Hopefully never.
Yeah. No, I didn't say never.
I've never.
I'm just saying I would like to not mention it again, hopefully for a couple of years. But we'll see. We might have it. You know,
We
they
do
keep
have a
saying.
request
It
coming up
was
next
still
month.
snowing.
Oh, my,
Yeah,
alright,
yeah.
for last year,
Yeah,
it's
we're
one
not-
thing.
we're not-
We're not done.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just talking about future snow. I'd rather not
Did
mention
we
it.
call the question on this yet?
Call
No, we
question.
haven't. Okay, please. Those in favor signify, please. Okay, unanimous.
I really love this map, just
It's-
showing, I mean, it's the,
Right.
Yeah,
It's
very
impressive.
bad. It is.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Too late,
It's
you
gonna be
voted
hard.
on it.
Yeah.
no, it's really cool, I like it.
Yeah.
It's
no.
really, this is really comprehensive.
Yeah, it's very good, and I think we're, and we have some roads that are not, even if we have another round being done next year, but there'll be some roads that won't have to be done for like 5 to 7 years, right? Because they were done sometime ago, about 25%. Is that accurate? Something like that?
Well, we got a road plan here,
Yeah.
so,
I might as well look at
We
that,
got,
right?
well,
Resurfacing, I see
right.
nothing until after next year we have 527.
72% is the number you're searching for. 72% of the roads were to be done in the first go around, 7 years to do 100%.
Okay, so in 2020, we've got another 500,000 plus.
Right, and
And then in 2021, we have secondary roads, some secondary roads that need to be done. Okay, and that's another almost 500,000, so we got another $1 million worth after we get this 700 and some on, or 400 and some. Okay, well, it's a lot of road resurfacing, but then we have a few,
Yeah, like the.
7 years of
Right.
break at least.
Was it 72%? 72%?
I thought we had somewhere in the neighborhood of 70-something%.
I don't recall the exact percentage, I know what number you're talking about,
Yeah,
but I think that's the 72%.
but that was also
sounds
2
about
years
right.
ago, so that may change.
What is that for?
What we're talking about was when we first, talked about resurfacing, there were about 20-some% of the roads that had recently been resurfaced or rebuilt.
We're in really good shape.
Were in good shape and didn't need resurfacing. So those particular ones were purported not to have to be done for at least 7 years.
So it's about 72% that are going
Are
to be
going to
done
be
over
done.
that.
The next 4 years, this year and the next 2 after this, that's 3 years, yeah.
just a little information, 42 miles of road with a 90-pound scratch coat leveling course and an 1.5 inch top is $8 million.
Do I need to know this?
No, I'm just saying, what it is, for the roads on how much you're spending, I mean, that's what it'll be to repay with,
With something more than
Yep.
what we're, so
Yep.
what we're using is a very cost efficient and
Yes.
yet very good
Definitely,
quality,
yeah. Mhm.
durable. So, cause we did look at or servicing the slurry or some other kind of system, and it was gonna be a lot more, so thank you for that information, this is much cheaper. Yeah, by about $1.25. Alright,
What?
you're usually the one who calls the
Oh,
question.
I call the
right?
question?
Okay, is there
Yeah,
any
you
objection?
already voted on it.
I voted on it.
You're right. I'm like, why are we still talking about this then? Let's move on.
I don't think we have any
That's
more
why we don't have
questions.
any more, we don't have any more to vote on, we're good. I didn't mark it off, so I forgot. Okay, financial statements.
Okay, we're all good.
So let's chat about financial statements.
Great, so I've finished all of the year-end reconciliations, and we finally have all of our invoices in and a large credit from one of our contractors for 2018. So it took a little bit to negotiate that, but we got a $3,400 credit.
Nice.
Yes. So, I'm here tonight to show you the December 2018 financial statements. We did really well in 2018. The first page is our balance sheet. And so at the top half of our balance sheet, since we're an operations company, capital company, they're split up.
I'll take them. Oh, wait a
And there are
minute, maybe I do.
two,
Yeah, I think I remember that. Hang on, I got it.
and there are 2 extra copies for anyone in the audience who would like.
Perfect, yeah.
And they'll also be posted on our website, so full 2018 packet. So, our net operating assets are positive at the end of the year, $668,350. That's great. Second year in a row. When I started in 2015, we had negative net operating assets, and that means that you are borrowing from your prepaid dues to pay future bills. Basically,
This was our third year.
is this our third year in a row?
Third year.
Third year in a row. So we are no longer borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. We have enough money to pay our bills. So that is a healthy place to be as an organization. Plus, our net operating assets are so positive that we have at least 3 months of bills in there, which is even better. Lots, that's makes the accountant happy.
Maybe it's second. I can't remember if it's the second or third,
I
but
think it's the second, but look, the main thing is we're in a good trend, right?
Well, we were positive in 2017. I can tell you that because it's on here. All right, so, and then we have our capital assets. Our current assets are all of our cash accounts. At the end of the year, every month, cash is king. That's what we can pay our bills off of. And so we write off 100% of what we have owing to us. So that way the net amount is how much cash we've gotten. But generally accepted accounting principles say, well, you're actually probably going to collect on 90 days of that. And so once a year, at the end of the year, we post an adjustment to say, hey, well, this is the amount that GAAP says we're going to collect on. But it's not cash. We haven't gotten it yet. So that's a year-end adjustment. So that's why at the end of the year, instead of 0 for member receivables and operations, we have $48,727 up at the top there. And then down under our capital current assets for member receivables capital, we have the $2,193, whereas normally that would just be 0 month to month. And so our cash account for our surf and roads and all of our capital accounts has gone up. And that's mainly due to the fact that we got the balance of our loan draw at the end of the year, so the $1.6 million. And then we have our capital fixed assets. So we've gained some assets. We redid the pool and the spit work, the gangways. Those projects were completed. And then we have our long-term liabilities. So there's the other half, your liability for your loan, the $1,625,000. And then our capital lease for our 40 golf carts is coming to a close here in 2019, and so there's just a small amount left owing on As of the, let me change that. As of the end of the year, we had a total of $525,711 for receivables, which is less than last year. Our collections percentage, if we go to the next page, year to date, and I just printed the 12 months ending, we have 97.3% collections percentage. So that's great. We've had 97% at least the last 2 years in a row, and I believe 96% prior to that, which is
Congratulations.
much better than the 85% that we had in 2014.
Fabulous, good work.
And so, you see that we have our dues and assessments income up at the top, and then our special assessment revenue broken out after that. We have all of our golf income, which was $7,525 better than budget. Marina income, $114,605. We have some additional rec center and pools income that comes in, so that's mainly additional access cards that people purchase for their family. You don't get all of them for free. And then if you bring your friends to the pool, then that's that income there. Bring your friend to the pool or the gym.
And I think we had a few actually purchase like monthly membership type of things, like, you know, from Geneva area.
Yeah,
or
just a
whatever,
few.
so.
Yeah, so about $10,000 there. I broke out some of our other income so we could see it, how to make a little more sense. We've got our new home construction fee income, was $113,304, and that's offset by the expense to our contractor, which is not listed separately, but it is,
Part of the professional services.
it is, and that was, just so you have the number, is $77,860 for the year. So we received the net of that.
Is that John Gordon?
John Gordon, yeah, for 2018. So we also had title transfer fee income, and that's $125 goes to operations, and 1/4 of 1% of the gross sales price goes to capital. And so we've got almost $40,000 in operations for our over 350 home transfers in 2018, and $226,050 in our capital account. We had $4,500 of stormwater mitigation revenue, so we made a plan so that way people could manage the stormwater on their properties and save money when building. We sell that plan for $500, so $4,500 there. Capital gain loss on lot sales is $28,970 as a gain. That is a non-cash gain. It's a GAAP, generally accepted accounting principle gain. Lower of cost or market is how they're valued, and then the difference with the sale price. So it came out as a gain this year. We also have rental income. So for all of our facilities, mainly our restaurant lease, the library. We had rental income from Area Z. We had other income. Other income was mostly fines, ACC fines. We had a large fine that was billed in 2017 and paid in 2018. And then additionally, we have the rest of our expenses, salaries, benefits, contracted professional services. And then we come down to our net income or loss. So we had a very tiny loss of $865, which was worse than budget. Budget had a small profit, about $6,000 profit budgeted. We also had some activity that was funded out of UDR, so our SGM expenses, hazardous tree removal, Area Z mitigation, which is still ongoing, and then the new GM recruiting expense. And then we have other UDR activity, so that's money that's collected from prior year operations, and then the AR accrual that I was telling you about for GAAP, so that's just posted the prior year reversal and then the current year once a year at the end of the year. And then our new auditors have said that they need to see a vacation liability on our books, and so that is also on our ballot sheet under accrued payroll and vacation liability. And then the expense side of it is here. That is according to GAAP and something that should be tracked we discussed last month, and I agree that it should be tracked on a monthly basis. I haven't gone back and reviewed that, so we'll adjust that month to month. And our new payroll software allows us to very easily see what that accrual is, versus our old payroll software would have been very cumbersome to calculate that value. This is just prints in a report.
That's great.
Yeah, so our new auditors have suggested that we put that on our books, and so I've recorded that there preemptively.
Do you know where rental income for like just the kayak racks goes?
Is that following under
Marina.
So it's in the marina,
Oh, I see.
Regardless of where they are, cause there's some in other places.
regardless of where they are, recorded in the marina
We
department.
increased, the number of, marina racks, I think, in the last year, increased it by several, two or
Yeah.
three more racks, I mean,
I think
so.
there's more down at PM Beach too than,
We've kept
Yeah.
increasing it, so that's $100 per kayak per.
do you know how much rental income total we get from that? Cause they all seem full. Right now even, off season.
They are, some of them are floating around.
It's included in one of the other GL codes, so I don't have that number offhand, but I'd be happy to send that to the finance committee. Okay, let me just write that down.
Is this the first year we've made income off on golf course for a long time?
We don't make
Like that we've profited.
It was a profit.
on golf board rentals?
No, golf.
Oh,
That's,
We didn't, we had a loss.
We had a loss this year.
What was our
It
loss?
wasn't as much as we anticipated.
well, I'm lost here
What was
because
our
golf
loss?
income says that we were,
So this
Better off-
is the best revenue year
Oh,
that we've
okay.
ever had.
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yeah, but we lost overall on the golf course, 51,700.
We budgeted for a loss.
We budgeted for a loss as
Okay.
well, yeah.
This is the best,
This is like the best income year in a,
long
20
time.
years or
Yeah.
more. Yeah.
well, since we just said it, so I just gotta see it. What was our loss in golf?
51,724.
So it cost every member in the association $1.37 a month.
Which is
Yeah.
actually almost the exact same losses in parks, recs, and pools.
Yeah, so that's what it costs to have amenities here. $1.37 per homeowner per
I'm
month.
gonna add with Parks, Recs and Pools, about 25 to 30,000 before this gym, just so you know. We're keeping the gym open for those few
Yeah.
months.
Yeah.
So the cash flow sheet, I apologize, is not printed tonight. But I did want to point out that when you view that report, which I'll email out, you'll see that there's a transfer into UDR, and that's from operations. So as you know, prior year operations collections all go into UDR. All the revenue has been calculated correctly. I do that in one place, and then I calculate the cash transfer in another place, and I erroneously didn't move that collected money from operations to UDR for the year. So that was about $82,000 that'll go back into UDR. It should have been going there every month throughout the course of the year, and I didn't have it coded correctly. So I found my mistake, identified it, and I corrected the error on the spreadsheet, and I updated it so that way it can't happen again. But you'll see that transfer on the cash flow.
So I have a question for you. We were 0.00275% off on your budget. Shame. Okay. So $865, something like that.
Yes.
You're holding $30,000 of UDR money.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about that?
Great, so, on December 13th, the board approved, and the finance committee reviewed it before. As of December 10th, the association's operations budget was on track within $500 of the spending plan. We came in within $7,000 of the spending plan. Our objective is to remain within our operational budget, managing to the bottom line at year end, and so we requested preemptively, due to over $97,000 of additional expenses that we hadn't anticipated, $30,000 from UDR into operations. but given that we're so close on our budget, within $7,000 and only a small loss, $865, I thought that we would actually just put the whole $30,000 back into UDR, but I wanted to know what the finance committee thought about that, or you could transfer the difference.
My concern is that some year down the road, you could have some Cretan say, oh my God, do you remember back in 19, they blew their budget by $765 or $865? When the fact is that at this moment, you're $29,200 because you haven't returned the $30,000. So I'd just like to make sure that we record that so it's very clear that the association did not spend more than it had. And had the authority to do what it was doing, and it did pick up the $90,000 extra. So I think returning the entire $30,000 back to UDR is the right thing. I just wanna make sure it's recorded in our notes that we had a choice. We could have covered the overage, or just returned the $800 or the $30,000 back, because it's a negligible amount.
Especially given the fact that we had so many unanticipated expenses, so it meant really sharpening our pencils with everything. And, I mean, just as long as it's recorded effectively for that, yeah.
We had Firewise, excess legal and SGM, summer admin, winter admin, hazard tree removal, additional maintenance on our equipment due to the aging of our assets. You'll notice that our repairs and maintenance costs are very expensive in 2018 because we haven't bought any new capital equipment in a number of years, and so that cost comes somewhere. Either you're buying parts or you buy new equipment.
Right.
So,
Just wanted to make sure it was clear.
great.
So we don't need to vote on that. I would say that, what you've decided to do is fine, and as long as it follows GAAP, I'm good.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Great. And then on the next page, we have our year-to-date income statement by department. So you have ACC security at the top, accounting, administration, common costs, which are just the dues income and property taxes, the dues, legal, facilities, maintenance, golf, and the marina. Followed by the UDR items, and then that were for operations and the rest of our UDR activity. It's a different way of looking at the same information. And then the next page was supposed to print two-sided. I don't know what happened to the back side.
Well, so there's only part of it here.
There's only
Maybe we
part of
should
it here.
just,
I will,
send the other
I'll
out.
send out the entire package, I apologize. But it is, again, the same information, but instead of by department, it's by category.
And then Jamie, just, you probably are already aware of this, but I just wanna make sure that these handouts also get attached to the agenda package.
Maybe you could not attach the one that's incomplete,
Well, that's what I'm thinking.
Oh.
Let's,
or I could
Let's-
put both sides of it on there.
if you would do that, I was going to
Thank you.
suggest that we do it that way. All right, now I have one further question for you, because, Paula and I asked if you would research what our current collections rate is, because we are now halfway into March, and of course we were concerned we had, what was it last month, it was 84?
It was 88% last month.
Last month, that's right.
And then through the end of February, we're at 91%. So it's too early to say how much we were at through March. People are still paying their dues. But through the end of February, we're at 91%. So we're increasing our collections rate, which is a trend from prior years.
And we budgeted at 91.
Budgeted at
So we're
91.
right on track right now.
Yep.
Good. Okay, what's next? You've got your capital reports.
Okay. As you can see, the pool is closed, the debris blower is closed, Ross sales office
Finish.
should be,
Oh, should be closed.
should be closed.
Okay, it's a zero balance, so
Yeah.
it looks like we're gonna, yeah, right on track. You got a question or good comment?
Just looking for the.
Oh, for the page, it's, page 34.
Capital lease on the golf carts is still open. And the extension, the work, they're still working on that, that was approved, the seats and all that. Unfortunately, they didn't get a chance to get to them in February when they were
Oh,
looking at it.
why?
I don't
What
know.
were they doing?
I don't know. So that's ongoing, so that's still outstanding. And then the Marina standpipe gangways, that should be just about closed, right?
Well, so all of these it is just about closed, but all these projects that are related to the loan will stay open until they're all completed.
Because they're all part of the
Same
same project.
Right.
Right.
And
Right.
covered by the loan.
Covered by the loan, so. As you can see, we still have,
Got a lot to do yet.
lots to do yet. The armoring is done, just waiting on getting all that, if anybody's looked at it, it is done, it is regraded, and
I haven't seen
It
it.
looks good.
It
I
does.
remember it.
It really looks good.
So is that, I mean, is that usable, like as,
not until it
well,
grows
not
in.
now, I
Yeah,
know,
it will
because there's
be.
a big sign, but like you can access the water from that area?
Not,
You haven't-
this is not
not-
for 2 years.
Okay,
I think it's 2 years for allowing the growth to come in.
It would be good to find that out, Joe. I think
Yeah.
other people will be asking that.
well, and how are you gonna keep people from,
I don't think it's gonna be easy to get there, the way it is right now. But
even on the
anyway.
peninsula, like to just walk down the rocks?
Oh, were you saying
Yeah.
off the spit?
Off the spit,
We're
that's what I'm
not allowed
talking
to
about.
use the spit for 2 years?
I think that you have to wait for some plantings to hold, is that
Oh,
correct?
let's find out.
Okay,
Let's
Yeah,
find
you
out.
have, we can't get in there until at least the grass grows.
right, right.
And that
Mhm.
will be, I mean, you're looking probably at least the end of the summer for that.
Yeah.
It fills in,
Mhm.
so you don't have any disturbance.
Yeah, we don't wanna undo anything that's,
Already there.
It's very pretty.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
It is.
Are they doing something with the boat launch? There was a big barge in that area yesterday.
There
Or
still
was
is
it just-
today.
Oh yeah, you know what they're doing? Like they were right in the boat launch area, I don't know.
Might be over on the other side, we might be trying to finish some stuff up.
They're on the inside, like the inside of the marina, I don't know. They look busy. I thought maybe they were having a new thing for a while, but no.
Looking busy and being busy, well, we all know that that's not the same.
Well, no, I was kind of hopeful they were like redoing that
Oh, God.
walkway out along the dock, but it didn't appear to be that. So, I'm just curious.
Okay, the roads, you doing that next? The roads project, the copy report, or is there more on this? Did I miss something on this?
No,
Okay.
it's just, they are ongoing until
Okay.
everything is completed.
Okay, good. Okay, so everything is open on these roads items as well.
So when the Windward Drive design is done, is it done?
No.
So when it's done, then we come back and determine what it's gonna cost us to
Right.
do.
We get the design, then a cost estimate to go ahead and do it.
Okay, so these are all pretty much construction for this year, in the open season,
Construction's included in the roads plan in 2020.
yeah. Oh, in 2020, all of these?
No, just the
The Windward
Windward.
Windward,
Oh, the Windward, oh, okay, I'm seeing
Windward
the
Fairway and.
Yeah, got it, I understand that now, okay. I was looking at all the other items.
But that's separate from Windward drainage.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, good. And then UDR projects. Okay.
yeah, you're closed on the GM expense areas of mitigation. Still have not gotten back the letter from DOE yet.
Yes. Okay, we're,
It's gonna be a little longer. The information we had was, given to us was, needed a little bit longer time. We'll probably have it, has to go DOE, they had a meeting yesterday, I had not heard from Wilson today. then it has to gets posted for 30 days. So this is a little bit more of an ongoing thing.
Okay. So essentially, we still are not approved as a no action required.
Not yet.
in that
Not
area.
until I get the official letter in my hand will I believe that.
And we can't go forward with what we're planning at Area Z.
I talked with,
Yes,
I'm asking, can we
yeah,
or can't we?
yeah, we can. I've talked to them.
Okay,
They will allow it to go start June 1st.
okay,
So.
okay, good. Alright,
But it's taken a little longer than the information they
That
originally
was
gave.
coming like every day in November and December too, wasn't it?
yes, it
Yeah.
was.
yeah.
And we had a meeting and they said we'd have it the next week and
Yeah.
it was
I've
6
heard-
weeks ago, what? 6 weeks
I've
ago?
heard next week. He filled me in on it the other day and I said, "Oh, I'm in town. Do you need help on this?" I'd be happy to go through it.
If it helps any, it's my experience with Washington DOE, that's part of the course too.
I'm finding that out.
So is it different than Pennsylvania?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Washington's its own
Yeah, it's,
little
yeah. Permitting out there is
It's different.
very quick,
Yeah.
very quick.
Okay, surf budget? I take it that's, who's going to find the surf budget?
I will, Laura.
Okay, perfect.
What you have here on page 38, 39, and 40. What we are asking is, what had happened is all the staff had sat down with Jennifer and myself. We ranked them, the staff ranked them, and then once that was done, it was turned over to,
Tony and, yeah.
yep, and they ranked them.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what we have come up with. A,
What's
B,
the
A priorities for this year. All the A1s, which are high priority, and then we have down to Bs, the Cs, the Ds, the Es, and the Fs.
These are all ones that were designated as suggested to be done this year.
They
from
were-
CERT.
In the reserve
In the
study.
In the
reserve
reserve
study.
study.
They were, and the A ranking is a combination of what the management staff said it was the highest rank and what SURF said was the highest rank, and that's why it's an A.
Mhm. And CERF made the determination based on the impact that it would have to the association should the item fail. That was the primary.
Right.
That was the number one, criteria. Okay. Okay, good. So these are the ones, and.
These are the ones.
And so our, total amount for this year is estimated.
792, 422.
Okay, and we have funding available for, we believe, based on these estimates, we believe we have the funding available to do most of those.
You can see that on page 37, just the summary.
Yeah, 37 is good to check on too, yeah. So it shows the amount of funds that we have
And then in
in 2019.
in tedious detail on pages 43 through 47.
Yeah, she put everything in here, it's great, and this is everything that's in the SURF, plan from now till 2028.
So,
The bottom line looks like about $9,000
Shy.
Short at
from
night.
the project, if these dollars.
If we
turn
do
out
all
to be
these
good.
and if the dollars are right,
yeah,
okay.
if the dollars are not right, we may not be able to do all.
Yeah.
That's right,
That's
that's
true.
right.
So are these in priority order? Yeah, are the A's in a priority order, or are they just all A's?
No, we have to make, at that time, we have to make a determination
Got it.
of which ones
Okay.
are more important.
Mhm.
Okay.
The ranking matrix allows it actually to go through A1, A2, A3, A4.
And you could at that time have some information that says A3 is a bigger deal than an A1, then you would choose to
Well,
fund an A3 versus an A1.
well, the only things that come out as A's are high priority by the managers and number one ranking by the CERT team. There's no additional third.
So I'm confused by what you just said.
So I used to, they're using the ranking matrix to go to A, B, C, D's and E's.
Okay.
I would have used the matrix for A1, A2, A3, A4, which it has the capability to do. So right now it's A's. We can rank, if it comes down to it, the A's and the B's.
You
Well,
can rank the A's based on the.
Tell us how you're gonna choose
No, we
which
can't.
ones
So
to approach
that's why I'm
first.
confused.
Yeah, let's talk about how we're gonna choose which ones first, because if there's a potential for not doing all of the A's, how will we approach starting the work on this?
They'll have to be re-ranked when, they'll have to be
Okay.
re-ranked and
We have to re-rank them.
prioritized.
Okay.
Take all the
And
A's
Just
and
among
as
the
we-
A's.
as we start-
Yeah, go through the A's and go through the ranking
As we
process.
start purchasing
Yeah.
the equipment, then we can tell if equipment's $20,000, if we buy a piece of equipment that's $20,000 more, at that time, then we have to start re-ranking the other items.
The other-
We have to get back
Well,
together.
we have to
and-
start with the most high priority
Yes.
to start anyway, so, that's what I wanted to make sure that we had we're not gonna just go out and get everything at once, cause we have to make sure we're gonna still have a budget. Knowing how things and prices go up these days, so, okay, good, and then we do have B's and C's just in case everything's cheaper than we thought. We get a chance to do more.
Sure.
But barring that, they will all get deferred
2000.
until whenever, yeah. Next year or the year after or whenever.
There
Next,
are-
go ahead.
Oh, there are a couple of, items on here to take note of, and that's
Mhm.
that the, one is the cardio machines that we've, the dollar amount on here is an estimate for a 3-year lease
Mhm.
due to cash flow restrictions, and so, the entire amount, the entire 3-year amount would be brought forward
Mhm.
for approval.
Good.
And then,
Okay.
and then you would need to fund that again in 2020 and 2021.
Mhm.
Similarly, the golf irrigation system is a very large project, and it's been split over 2 years due to cash flow, and so that entire 2-year project would be bid out at once. And then you would fund half of it this year and about half of it next year.
But we would obligate the funds for the full amount.
Correct.
Mhm. Okay, it's just that we wouldn't actually have to take it out of cash.
Mm-hmm. And you can see that in, on the next 2 pages after that.
Mhm. C doesn't seem to be a popular ranking. There's only one C, and that's the bridge on golf. Otherwise it's A, B, or D. Okay. And then you can see the surf, as Jennifer described it, tedious. All the surf information, and this is for the next movement. All the things that need to be replaced or repaired. Get your magnifying glass on.
It's really little, but it's very good information, and it's
Really-
laid out really nice.
Yeah, I like it, and I love this idea of doing it in a 10-year plan. This helps a lot.
Yeah, it does.
Excellent.
So,
Anybody have questions? Go ahead, Karen.
well, yeah, this is only.
No, it's okay.
Okay, so 2019, the plan, the very total is the 2.6 million.
Which page are you on?
I am on page 46.
Okay.
I'm putting this all together. So that would be if we did everything, right? The 2.6
Right.
million. So then,
And that ties back to the total on page, what is that, 39?
Yeah. 2.610.
okay, so then, but we're not doing all of that, right? We're
Correct.
saying we have
We don't have the
700.
money to do all of
Okay,
that.
so then are we just, I'm trying to understand, so are we then pushing things out and saying we can't do it all, or are we just saying we're ignoring those things that didn't make the cut for 2000?
We're not ignoring them.
Well, not ignoring
We're not ignoring
But I
them.
mean, yeah, how, I'm trying to understand how to read
Okay,
this
so,
document,
this has to tie to the reserve study, and the
Mhm.
reserve study says these items should be done this year. Every year, the reserve study is updated. So this includes a lot of things that were deferred from prior years.
Okay.
Okay, so next year, whatever doesn't get done this year in that column will be deferred into future years. Now, there may be a couple of things that we can say, well, we could wait 2 years on that one. You know, it all depends on how we go through the ranking, but if, let's say we get 700,000 done, there's a 1.9 million amount that's gonna have to get moved to future years, probably mostly next
So-
year.
So 2020 shows 1.2, 1.2 million, 1.3 million, plus whatever we don't do,
1.9
so we're
or
just gonna
whatever.
continue, so,
It's actually less than 1.9, so if you look, on page 40, you'll see that the items that we have funding for, the A's, is 792,422, but then we have $1.2 million of projects in
Okay.
progress that are already
That's
funded.
right, that's right.
So the total amount deferred
so we're deferring.
is 600.
There you go, so I was gonna say it's under
Six-
700.
Okay, that's the better, I was looking at this and I was like,
I thought that too, I thought, well, how did that happen, because we had talked about this earlier, yeah, you're right.
so every year we're deferring, okay, some amount, but this year.
Some amount, and actually, I have to say, this is a better year than we have had in the past. We have had 2 or 3 million left over every, some.
2 or 3 deferred.
Deferred, yes,
Okay.
deferred, and so this is, much better.
And then going back to some other sheet that I have now lost. There's like a $600,000, is that basically a balance, like you'd have in an escrow account that we keep in there? or what's that
That's a good
600,000?
question. So in our, the board made a decision several years ago that, our capital accounts should have a carryover amount
Okay,
each year, so that in the event of an emergency, we would have extra funds there to draw on. So our target carryover for SURF, is 600,000, and for roads it's 500,000.
so can I think of that like the minimum balance that you have to have in your escrow account,
Yes.
like we always
You
kind
can
of
think
keep
of
it,
it like
okay?
that.
So it's-
Sinking fund,
Now,
Yeah, okay.
the thing to keep in mind about this is, that happens quite frequently during the year, especially when we have a 2 or 3 year project. We may have obligated funds, so even though we may not have spent the funds, we commit them, because like today, we committed all the funds for the culvert work and so forth. Well, if we don't have the full amount already pulled in through dues, we may not have the full amount that's obligated already in there. So we may not have a $600,000. At some point during the year, it may go below that.
Okay.
But the whole goal is at the end of the year, we have that $600,000 available. So I didn't want you to think that you may never see it.
Yeah, it'll
buried
dip
in there.
below and then you have to,
Well, it's just like your bank account.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna have $500 to spend on Christmas this year. Well, you're not having it in January and then all year long, right? You have to work up to it. All right, just wanna make sure you.
Does that happen I can't recall that happening in the last year and a half or
From
so
one
has it?
month, there have been a
No.
couple
Month
months
to
where we went,
month,
where we
it
went
can
below
happen.
the $600,000.
It just happens.
Timing of expenses versus when the dues are collected.
Okay.
You know, the budget assumes you collect all the dues on the first of the year,
Right.
and then you can do all the work, and you don't.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen that way.
so that's basically a cash flow kind of issue, is it, so the cash balance is dipping below, is that what we're saying?
No,
Not
not
necessarily.
the cash balance.
Okay,
So, of all not the cash balance, so you have your balance, in your bank account. And then you have all this work that you said, hey, I'm gonna do this work,
Committed,
and
okay.
committed, and so
Okay.
when you subtract the two, you might get under that $600,000 during the year.
Makes sense?
Yep.
Okay, all the detail. I really appreciate this. This is,
Does the finance committee recommend this priority ranking to the board so we can start bidding?
Do we have to do that?
we can, if you wish, you can do a motion. If someone would like to make the motion that we use this ranking as the.
I make the motion that we use this ranking.
And I'm gonna second his motion.
Okay, so use this ranking for moving forward with surf coverage. Very good, so
My first year.
we've done a lot of discussion. Is there any additional discussion needed?
I believe that there's someone here in the audience that wanted to challenge one item. And I know that comments come at the end of the meeting, but I think that it was a very important item to them. And I know that they're here in the audience and they wanted to bring it up. Would you, allow them to make an impassioned plea for something?
I'm happy to do that. Who is the individual? Yes, state your name, address.
Name is Gary Barra. We live on 30 Lake Louise Drive.
Okay,
We're in A2.
okay, and what is your request?
To move the resurfacing of the tennis courts from a priority B to a priority A. Last summer, we formed a tennis club. We have 26 members that are signed up for it. We have other people that have declined to use those courts because they're in such bad shape. We have photographed the cracks in the surfaces. They're dangerous. We still play on the courts because they're there, but we would like them to be usable. We can use them, but with the possibility of someone getting injured just because of the way the cracks are on the surfaces.
An impassioned
So,
plea from a member, okay, who
Pardon?
was not, this is an impassioned plea from a member who was not part of our evaluation, so thank you. I
yeah,
appreciate that.
and so we've had a lot of interest. We'd love for those courts to be usable. Libby and I, mainly Libby, sought out a couple of estimates on getting the tennis courts resurfaced last year, and showed them to Mitch last year, and he indicated that the bids that we got were under the estimates that were received by you, right, Mitch?
That's, your estimates were 1/3 the cost of the number that's shown in the reserve study.
Okay, which is
91,000.
unusual.
Yeah.
It's 91,000 and you came up with a figure that was closer to 30, is that what I'm hearing?
That's correct, yes.
Can I ask which tennis courts you guys use?
Yes, that was the one I
The
was gonna
baseball
ask.
field ones.
The ones in the
Yes,
red corridors?
yes, right here.
Right here, okay.
So is that this, the
Court.
court
Court
area?
area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, where do you see that? 'Cause I
Right here,
missed
court
it.
area tennis court.
It's a C,
91
right? Currently
It's a C.
So, the estimate was for only the 3 courts, but they would do both.
Area
That's
tennis court research.
what you decide to do. And we have listed our group with the Parks and Recreation people. We're Tennis for All. So, anyway, a lot of interest. Not only the people that signed up with us, we see kids out there when there's good weather. We see families out there.
Yeah.
They're not part of our group. A lot of people use it. Some skateboarders, which I really don't want them to use it, but,
Yeah.
you know, and if we get a resurface, we would have to, limit that.
Well, and there's also, I see a fence that's in the C category, for another 25,000, so it almost seems that that would have to be considered as well, because if you're gonna resurface it, there's no sense not also fencing it.
Right. There's a practice
so-
backboard on there
Right,
that needs to be replaced
Right.
also.
okay.
I was gonna ask, is there a reason that you don't use the marina tennis courts? I'm just curious.
So these courts are actually in better shape
Okay.
than the marina.
Okay.
Good
And
to know.
It's close proximity.
I think
Uh-huh.
we've
I
also
think-
got.
So location wise,
going on.
I mean, I'm thinking from a prioritization thing, if we, you know, we can't do two, we can only do one even. That's the better course
This-
for
this-
tennis players.
These are, yes.
Okay.
Mhm. Okay,
But,
so you've had a conversation already, or was this just you were just notified of this? I'm just curious to know what background. you
Gary
have.
asked me what the ranking was, and I said
Uh-huh.
it didn't make an A.
Okay, it's
And
a
if
C, actually.
If it didn't make an A, it
Mhm.
wouldn't get funded,
Mhm.
and he would be welcome to come and talk to the finance committee and explain his case, which
Okay. So
I've
we're in we're in conversation now, what's everybody's thought is?
Well, I have a suggestion possibly.
Okay.
I see that there's $50,000 in there for playground equipment for Parks and Rec. You're looking at me like I'm gonna say something.
No,
I know, that's what I was concerned, like,
Oh, she
shut it
doesn't
down.
trust it.
No, I trust her. No, so anyway, what I'm saying is that, you know, we've had conversations about this and maybe this is something that we can continue to work on within Parks and Recreation and maybe it's an either or thing this year and we determine what is more of a need for the community. Is it playground equipment? Is it tennis courts? I mean, it's all under that umbrella, and I feel like we do need to do a good job of prioritizing that within our committee even, and maybe that's the best place to handle it rather than, you know, us putting, so it would be Parks and Rec would come up with a plan for how to best use capital funds for Parks and Rec this year, you know, what.
Well, I'd say you could come up with a recommendation.
Right.
And take that to staff, and they could reconsider if that's, I guess you know, if we wanna hold off on using this, we wanna get started on, making some recommendations, but that particular item, we could hold off on as far as, the playground equipment and look at the tennis court, we could do that.
Well, can,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, she, and then you, okay.
So, one of the criteria as when, it's looked at is the usability by the community members or the importance to the community members. It's one of the criteria in gauging those. I think knowing that there's 26 members, and more that wanna do it, I think that's really important to take into consideration in that, and being that A's are going to have to be looked at, I mean, we talked about, those are gonna have to go back for reconsideration for prioritization in there anyway. It might be a good idea to take a look at that, and have that reconsidered along with those A's, because we've spent a lot of money and it's very important to be pushing forward the usability of those areas for our community members. I think it's been stated that's a top priority. The administration has made that a top priority, the board has made that a top priority, the community members have made that a top priority. I think knowing that it's definitely worthy of discussion. I certainly didn't realize that there was a club of that size working within it, and I would want to support that with at least a discussion to take that information back in the ranking discussion.
Well, it's been obvious to me that that it seems like this past year, there is way more activity on those tennis courts than there have been in the last 5 years.
I think anything we can do to support using our facilities to the fullest extent, and if there's that much, I just don't know that that's known that there's that much interest in it, and so that's important information, and I appreciate you bringing that forward.
yeah, and we have all the documentation, so.
Got it. Well, Tony, you had a comment, and I have something.
I do know that tennis courts have been used throughout the years, and the question is, for me, I didn't think we needed 2 sets of tennis courts, one at the marina and one at the core. I always thought the core should be the one that we pay emphasis to. What I think we should do is, I think we should approve what we have here with the caveat that we're going to go back and reevaluate the A's, all the A's, B's, and C's again, and especially for this one.
And include this in the possibility of looking at. I think here's the issue. from my standpoint, I'd like to just, before you make the motion, I think it would be best to me if we would reevaluate, or if we would approve the aids to move forward, with the caveat that we would reevaluate the tennis court versus one or two others. In other words, see if we can put the tennis court in with the A's at some point. Does that make more sense? Because otherwise, I don't wanna hold up the whole.
No, I don't want
process.
to. No, I don't want
either, I
that.
just don't want it
No.
in the conversation and say, nope, it
Yeah.
didn't make the cut.
I mean, cause there may be
But keep
one
it
or two
open
things
for
that we could
possibilities.
move. If we can't, it's because we've already discussed, or we've
Yes.
discussed a really good reason why these other things take priority, but would that sort of a thing work for you guys?
I would have no
Is that
problem.
if we
I would have no
approve the-
problem with that.
Okay, so if we could have a motion, we moved it already?
Yes.
So can we have an amendment to that?
I'd like to make an amendment to the, proposal for asking the board to approve the A's as, have they been ranked by staff and by, finance, sir, that they evaluate the, possibility, or evaluate options to include the core area tennis court in with that group and find economies to either swap one item out or to find the funds with the A group funding to do the tennis court. Does that
Okay,
make
that's a
sense?
lot of stuff,
Yeah,
so
that's
I'm
a lot
not
of stuff.
sure if, I'm not
Did
sure.
you get that?
I think,
Second half.
I think, you
sorry.
got the second half? You did?
That
I
we
would
evaluate
give it
the
a
options
conversation
to
on the tennis
include
courts.
core area tennis court
Yeah.
in with that group and find economies to either swap one item out or to find the funds with the A group funding to do the tennis court.
That's what I said.
It is what he said, that is amazing. I'm proud. All right,
Need
is
some more
that,
chocolate because I'm a big
There's a whole bunch of dark chocolate.
Yeah. all right, so now, do I have a second? Okay, second. Now, Jennifer and Joe, given that wording, is that what you would need in order to do what the intent would be of this to go forward with some, in other words, you get to actually do the negotiations to see if that's it, and then I would say check back with finance on whether or not you could add that in.
Well, I think SURF and them should work together.
Yeah, that's
And
what I
coming up
think.
with
Does
a
that work?
solution.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if we were to do that, that would be okay with you.
And we'll also work with the parks and trails.
Parks and
They're gonna-
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
if possible, I would like to, within that umbrella, see what we can do, rather than, you know, in a totally different group.
Supplant something
Yeah,
else.
yeah,
I
because,
agree.
you know, that is what we're doing, we're trying to kind of make priorities, for where we should invest in various things, and so I'm hoping that we can kind of work that out and then make recommendations as far as, you know, some of it's even just what's logistically possible in.
I think that's great, I think
So-
that's good, so you'll give you that responsibility of Parks and Trails,
Well, okay.
and SURF will work with you as,
To see if we can get it in there.
Yeah.
Can I get a second?
I second.
he did, Tony
You vote
did.
on it? I call
Tony
for it.
did, well, I wanted to make sure there was no more conversation.
I do have a question.
Okay,
Are there individuals that participate in your group that are outside the association?
No.
Okay.
oh, thank you, that was a good question, yeah, that is a good question.
They all live here.
Okay.
Okay, not that we would object.
No.
You know, it's just knowing that there were really 26 members that are, I mean, we've done more for the adult pool with fewer members, so, I mean, I shouldn't say more.
Actually, yeah, it's about that.
It's about that,
It's about
yeah.
that. Yeah, we spent $500,000 on it.
Yeah.
It's about that.
Hey, there are like 1,900 cardholders now, so.
Yes.
That's how many adult pool members there are.
And I would say, it's just like the natural, if you build it, they will come. I suspect if we had a nice tennis court, they
Oh,
would
that's
have a lot
not the
of
natural.
Wasn't that the natural?
That was baseball.
Field of
I know.
Field of dreams.
Field of dreams.
Field of dreams.
I don't have a good memory for names.
I call the question.
But I remember the wording. Okay, yes, the question's been called without objection. Those in favor of the motion, okay? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you for bringing it forward.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Gary and
Libby.
No, I wanted to make sure you were including that. I thought you were. All right. Where do we fall? Huh?
Member questions? Member questions?
No, I'm checking here. We've got the roads budget, audit memos, we've got all
The roads budget.
Roads
We haven't
budget.
done the roads
We
budget.
haven't done the roads budget yet.
Request a 2-minute, 5-minute break, please.
All right, we can do that. 5-minute break.
Yeah, I haven't got one.
Okay, can we all come to order again, please?
These are the estimates that she received last, they're a year old, but she wanted us to.
All right, so we still have the roads,
Yes. Budget.
do the roads budget. 48 and 49.
I've been in finance meetings since 5 o'clock, so I'm
Oh, I'm sorry.
Retired.
tired.
Okay,
Why don't I have 48? Oh, so that. Where are we?
48 and
48 and 49.
To approve the, pretty much everything we had gone over for the road budget, the microsurfacing, the 190, all of that, Barn 8 Foundation and Rotunda removal, parking lot, all the culvert work,
And the vegetation control.
vegetation control.
And somewhere in here we have on-call.
Yeah.
engineering
Yeah.
is up at the top.
On call. Yeah, on call engineering
And then
is,
we also have the fast response unseen, unforeseen items. Okay, so engineering is it, we've already done this one, right?
yes.
We funded that one for
That was-
32,765. Right, okay. All right, so you're asking us to also, recommend these projects for, and obviously, as we go through them, we will be given, is any of this still not?
The only one,
Yeah,
the only one.
we haven't
is-
funded. Go ahead.
Well, the only thing that we will be getting more information to you on will be the removal of the foundations for Barn 7 and
Right,
the
and
Rotunda.
pothole repairs.
That was parking.
Mhm, yeah, okay. So we've already actually approved them, but this is just to say we
We're-
continue with this plan, okay. So is there a motion for
So,
that?
I'm confused, so, is this,
Current 10-year roads plan.
okay,
And 2019 are the ones that we're working on this year. We have already funded most of them.
okay, so I'm not clear what the motion is.
So we'd like to have a motion to approve the 2019 budget plan for roads.
Okay?
Yeah,
So moved.
probably should have come before all the capital.
Okay, it's
requests.
been
Yeah,
moved,
moved.
moved by Penny,
Second.
seconded by Tony.
So who was the
Penny,
first?
Penny. Mm-hmm, okay.
So that's for the 1,365.
1,365,000.
$690.
And understand, we're not approving that amount, we are approving the projects to be bid and,
Mhm.
Right,
in other words, we've already approved some of them, but we have a couple more that we're gonna get independent requests for.
okay,
Just wanna make sure that we're,
yeah,
just like we did with SERB.
You said the word approving. I think that we're
Recommending, you're right.
recommending
I do
that
that
this
all the
be
time.
the 10-year plan for
Yeah.
roads.
And we recommend it to the board.
Yeah,
Okay.
call the question.
Those in favor? Okay, unanimous. So that's roads
Right?
and services. So, next on our list.
Almost done. May I?
Yes, you may, would you please?
Great.
Okay, hang on just a second. No, and that's fine. If you have a question, then,
Well, I was just looking, so these all total up to this 16 million, so as, you know, how surplus, some of it is deferred, so it's like we have a list of, you know, total cost of this, and we know we're gonna have to defer some of it to this, the way it's spread out, it looks like we think there should be enough funding each year to do these. We've taken a 10-year plan and just
No.
spread it out over the 10
we
years.
don't think there's enough funding.
There's
If you
enough-
look down into
Okay.
the, bottom of page 49, I think
Okay.
it is, you'll see that in 2019,
Mhm.
we are, black to the amount of $36,844. But based on our current funding and
Okay.
plan, the way it is now, we will be $1 million in the hole by the end of next
Next
year,
year.
2020.
And are
So
these-
we don't have the funding to do the whole plan, that's why we're only requesting approval or recommendation, we're only recommending the first year at this point in time.
So is this, $1 million negative in 2020, and then 1.4, is this cumulative, or is this an additional each year?
Cumulative.
Okay, so in 2021, we'll add 400 more thousand to our deficit, just if you just look at this plan, okay.
If you just look at the change.
Okay,
This
And you
is the
see it
basis
just
for
looks-
why we're, the discussion of dues for Capitol Road, keeps coming up.
Dues or assessment, we have,
Dues or
that's
assessments.
not determined, that it would be dues, and we have to decide, you know,
but this does include, how much, did we increase it last year for roads?
$15 per
It
family.
assumes this plan in front of you tonight assumes no increase in the assessments over this 10-year period.
Mhm.
So that's what we'll be looking at here in 2020 is how
Or later this year.
later this year
Mhm.
for 2020, you know, what should the dues be to support 2020? You know, maybe do we have a plan for what that would look like going forward to be able to fund this 10-year period? But tonight, we're just looking at 2019.
I got it.
Other questions? Alright. So we have a motion on the floor.
I think we already voted.
We already voted.
My question came after, sorry.
You know, we do have roads, and I have it written down that it was unanimous, so why are we talking about it still?
Jennifer was getting ready to say something.
Okay, Jennifer was getting ready to talk about something else, and we wanna make sure we finish it. Okay, we're good. Now, you may go forward.
Great, so we had our new auditors, Newman and Associates, reaffirm what our prior auditors said regarding the use of capital funds for the culvert vegetation control, i.e. the major maintenance of the ditches, culverts, and swales, and then also for demolition and foundation removal. So both of these memos are, one's printed twice in your packet, but they're both in here, so for the review and edification. And I think it's important that we get these things documented specifically because they are not a standard use of funds. And so we're unique in that we're a homeowners association, and in that we haven't done our vegetation control in our ditches and culverts and swales for so long. So, you know, if we ever do get caught up, and we are doing it every year, every 2 years, for the whole valley, at that point in time, it would become operational. So,
And same with the demolition.
well, no, the demolition will always be capital, as long as you're going to keep the land as common property. If the association was ever to sell any of the common property, then we would have an issue.
Okay, good. All right, any comments or questions like that? All right, members of the audience, who would have a question or?
Yeah, I have a real quick one.
Okay, yeah.
The splitting of the golf course rehab for the watering system that take place over 2 years, is that gonna have an impact? Is it gonna extend the construction over 2 years, and will that have an impact on the golf course operations?
The first phase is to get the controllers and all that, the component parts put in. The next phase will be putting the heads in.
Okay, that explains it, thank you very much.
Great, thanks. Linda?
Okay,
I guess I should have each asked you to state your name. I know everybody knows.
Linda
you.
Bradley,
Yes.
2782. Hi.
Yes, very good, thank you.
First, there was a thing about in 2011 that the parking lot out here was supposed to be done. We deferred that because that's the year they built the library. And we had cement trucks in here, all sorts of contractors, so we said, do we wanna try and redo all of this down here with heavy equipment, have, you know, trucks, contractors coming in, so we deferred it. I believe once when Mitch was general manager, it came up again about doing that parking lot, cause it's getting rough. And that's when they brought in those lovely big machines that tore down Barn 7. Does it make any sense to try and do work when you have huge machines and people coming in here and lots of activity to resurface any of that? And that's why sometimes that work's done just, at least in 2011, that's why we deferred the work. It doesn't make sense.
I don't think we were looking for
No,
a
I
reason
know.
why.
No,
Yes,
I
there
just-
were reasons.
It's
you know,
like
I know.
sometimes the history makes a difference of why things were deferred, and that's why Jennifer likes to have history of what's going on here, because a lot of people don't remember or don't care. Now I'm gonna go back to my one questioner that I came for that I'm concerned with. In the 2018 AGM, we had a SURF anticipated expenditures of $513,080. We're way over that, you know? And it's like, where did we get those numbers from? And we're not even sticking to what we said our anticipated expenditures would be for the year. If we stick with the A's, that even if we go with the A's plus the projects that are already under construction, you're looking at real close to 2 million. For roads, we looked at spending $1,140,918. None of this stuff jives with the numbers you come up with now. And I think it's confusing for members, and you're gonna suddenly have people start asking, well, wait a minute. You know, somewhere we had to get these numbers from something. And there's just not any, there's not any link, it's not even close as far as it goes, cause even the roads numbers are over.
Can you, it would help me if you would send me where you're getting the information from. I'm confused myself right now, so if you can.
I'm just saying, when you look at it, you know, for a while.
I don't know what you're looking at, is
Okay.
what I'm saying, so if you could send me that, and
Sure,
Jennifer,
not a
that'd be
problem.
great, and then we can take a look at it and see what's happened since then. That's the only way I would be able to.
I know,
do
it's
it.
just hard when you know, I could see if the numbers were close, but they're not even close with
Well,
what
as I
we're
say,
talking
if I
about
knew what
spending.
it was, there may be a reason, there may not be, I don't know, all I can say is I need to know where you're getting.
Not a problem.
That'd be great, thanks.
You won't get it till Friday, I have babies tomorrow.
No problem, I'm not gonna be worried if I don't get it
Okay.
Friday.
Well, I'm sorry it's late, and I'm sorry that I'm going to sound very ignorant, but
No, you're not ignorant, first of all, name and address.
Carolyn Kane, 6 Somerville Lane.
Okay,
So, culvert 212. I get that it's a pipe. I assume it is not one of the pipes or tubes that is under anybody's driveway.
no, it shouldn't be under a driveway unless it happens to go a long distance, but usually the under driveway culvert is a separate item.
Okay, so is this then going, if this is the road, from one corner of the road to the other corner?
You know, I'd have to see it on a
underneath
map.
the road?
Yeah, I think we'd have to see it on a map.
Actual map, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm just surprised at the money because I'm not doubting anyone's expertise, but I have lived on that road.
which
31
culvert,
years.
oh, for 37 years?
31 years.
Oh, 31 years.
I know there's water. I know exactly how it flows.
Okay, so Carolyn, tell
So-
me which culvert are we talking about?
212.
212,
Page 16.
okay.
Well, 213 says it discharges 213 downstream. And that's crossing Polo.
Yeah, I am not a culvert expert, I have not been down there with cameras or crawled through them or anything, so
Well,
I
I'm
don't
just
know anything,
wondering,
but I think what Joe can do is probably check and find out a little bit more about it.
Could we just pull the vegetation out and get in my ignorance? Why can't you take a fire hose and
Well,
blast the stuff out of there?
the thing is that
Seems so simple, so
I
it must not
can't
be
tell
true.
you what, if they said it was a D plus, my guess is that the pipe itself has been deteriorating. And that was several years ago, so I mean, we're talking 5 years ago, so.
It was a C minus in 214.
Oh, C minus, okay, C minus, which is,
Close.
means that it's probably gotten a lot worse since then. One, as Joe was saying earlier, so it's not maybe at where, the areas where you can see it, it may be inside, I don't know. I'm not gonna try to explain it.
Yeah, I
but-
just know where the water is and isn't.
Mhm.
This is culverts for 212 and 213,
Yeah.
so there's two culverts. that
Combined.
we're-
There is, 212 is the one I'm wondering about, that's my road.
I wonder if it's, at least reading the description of the project, it also says that, they're identified as being undersized for the 25-year, 24-hour design storm event, so it may need to be replaced because it's not sufficient, because it says it's undersized for that area in the description, so it may take us out of compliance. I'm just reading it, maybe it's out of compliance and so we have to replace it.
And like I said, I'm just wondering if it's knowing where the water is and isn't.
Mhm.
I think I'd give it to them for the tennis courts.
You said what was that?
It's taking us 60,000 over this.
Great, I got it. For that. But let's make sure
I'd
that,
just be interested in having
Yeah.
a better understanding.
I think it would be good if Joe could just,
I'll look.
maybe he'll get a little bit more information on it and we can let you know.
That would be great, thank you.
Okay, perfect, thanks. Okay,
You would not be the first member who said, you walk me through the culverts in my neighborhood, please?
yeah.
Because, some of them you can't actually find. And so, these all had a camera run through them. And, we have maps and Joe has a map. But you wouldn't be the first one to say, show me.
Perfectly, and
Yeah.
please, we
Yeah.
want people looking for these things, and if there's something that we don't have enough information on, yeah. I'm all for saving 60,000 if we can. I don't think we can save all that much, but, we can look over it and see what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay?
That one I happen to know, the others I don't know.
Yeah, well, you don't want to, there's many, there's hundreds of them, so. Okay, any other questions? All right, okay, so, okay, we're gone.
That's the only time you said something.
And thank you, everybody.
I said